From differing opinions.
I couldn't disagree with you more.
I haven't always agreed with you.
Free speech is alive and well in America right here.
This country is worth fighting for.
That's why we're canceling those season tickets. That's why we're canceling those subscriptions.
I'm just so sick and tired of it.
Disgust us.
It's insanity, man.
This is News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Sunshine and a warm southerly flow team up for some beautiful weather today and Tuesday. Winds out of the south and southwest at 5 to 15 miles per hour today. Looking at afternoon highs from around 70 to 73 degrees. Tonight, clear, mild, down to 47 for the early morning low. Tuesday, sunshiny in the morning, partly cloudy in the afternoon, but even warmer, up to 75 tomorrow afternoon. Looks a little unsettled for the second half of the week with on and off rain and some thunderstorms. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Number one for live and local
conservative talk.
They always have great conversation.
News, analysis, and opinion.
The President of the United States.
Freedom and democracy are under attack both at home and overseas. My predecessor tells Putin, quote, do whatever the hell you want.
He hit about everything you could hit.
What we saw was the performance of a permanent politician.
The American people deserve better.
101.9 and 94.1.
Let me close with this. Yay!
News Talk STL. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Did you hear about this thing that Corey Stark over Channel 4 is in the middle of this big, huge controversy, and a bunch of national leftist media is going after the guy?
Just heard about it.
I haven't the slightest idea whether Corey Stark is conservative or liberal or anything like that. I mean, you don't really see it in his reporting. I don't think that. I'm just going to put it out there right now. I don't think that all the pouncing on him is fair. Mm-hmm. But I've got the little clip that people are all upset about, so we're going to get to that in just a minute. So the other day on KMOV, on their news, there was a story that they were doing regarding, a program for, homeowners or dealing with a government thing in the city of St. Louis. And it's a program that's targeted basically at minority homeowners. And so here's the little clip. It doesn't even really matter what the program is. I'll just put it that way. Because here's Corey Stark anchoring it, and somebody just held up their phone and recorded, which is why it's a little bit echoey. But you can clearly see you can clearly hear what he had to say. And so here is what's caused all the consternation.
American dream, but tonight colored homeowners are sounding the alarm when it comes to undervalued home appraisals. Our national investigative team looking into this issue.
Okay, so there it is. Colored homeowners.
Right.
So KMOV, of course, and Corey Stark is now, apologized. He's like, that's not who I am, etc.
The station probably issued a statement, right?
KMOV put a statement and they said, okay, the original script said homeowners of color. And then somehow in their editing and writing process, somebody changed the script and made it colored homeowners.
Right.
And then Corey just read it because that's what was on the teleprompter right there.
Right.
And before
pulled around Burgundy.
Yeah, I was going to say, before you go around Burgundy on it, I've been on television. I've done plenty of teleprompter work. There's a different mindset when you're reading that.
You stay on prompter.
You stay on prompter.
You do.
You have to. If you try to edit in your head, you're going to crash and burn. So I've seen stuff like this happen. I really have, where like a producer or director in a newsroom writes a script, what they call just a voiceover, which is where they just, read something and there's a little
B-roll or something.
Yeah, a little B-roll or a little thing above their shoulder. And a lot of times the anchors, they will see it on the set or they'll see it for the first time and they're just reading what's on there. I mean, they really are. Now, a lot of the anchors write a lot of their own scripts. And in this particular case, apparently Corey Stark did not. So he says colored homeowners.
Right.
Now,
I think that's an important distinction that you make there, because he may not have had any opportunity to read the copy at all, and all of a sudden it shows up, and you're right, he's reading it on the teleprompter.
Yep.
No clue.
Right. Or somebody edited for time, because here's behind the scenes. When you read the TV script programs, when you're writing it, they tell you how many seconds they estimate that's going to take.
Right.
So if you're tightening up your prepositional phrases or whatever, then you see that little time go down, which is what you want.
So you're pulling out little words.
You're pulling out words. Right. So first of all, I did not know anybody under the age of 85 still said colored people. I mean, my grandparents used that term because they were from, the Depression era. That was normal, and it wasn't a slur back then.
Right. That was the civic. I mean, National Association for Advancement of Colored People, NAACP. Right, yeah. Because the NAACP was founded in the era where colored people was the proper term,
right,
for black folks.
Okay, so Corey Stark is now under the gun. The Daily Beast writes this attack piece on him. Mm-hmm. They actually referred to it as a Jim Crow era.
Yeah.
I'm like, really?
Yeah, that was a stretch.
I'm like, really? Okay, well then, Gabe, obviously people are going to ask you this question for different reasons than they're going to ask me.
Yeah, a little bit.
As the black dude in the room, when you hear Corey Stark say colored homeowners, did you have a reaction to it?
Well, I mean, now it would probably be different hearing it firsthand than hearing it after the fact when all the explanations are out there and you kind of understand. Although, to be fair, this has been my problem with the term people of color or something of color that has become kind of the one of these standard terms that we use in public these days, because it's just a reversal of colored people. People of color is colored people with of in between. That's all you've done. So I don't like the idea that there's one formulation of those words, the 2 versus 3 word phrase that's good and one that is derogatory.
That makes sense.
I don't like it. It's like, why are you doing this? Because what you're going to do is you're setting people up to do that. You're setting people up to have a slip of the tongue and reverse the words.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of nonprofit groups out there that are like of color is like the big thing. Women of color.
Yeah, exactly. Business owners of color. Blah,
right.
blah. Well, and then the other half of the reason why I hate that is that basically it just means not white.
Well, yeah.
Which is different than saying black, Hispanic, Asian, Filipino, and you know what I mean? Saying it's just basically it's a decidedly exclusionary term that I do not like.
Yeah.
All that being said, I don't think this is a big deal. I think this is it's a slight mistake. It's either an editing mistake, a slip of the tongue,
or all the above.
Yeah. I don't think he's intentionally decided. Oh yeah, them colored people's over there. He's
that's right.
He didn't suddenly become a 1930s guy from the South. Talking about the coloreds.
Yeah.
So I think it's overblown all the consternation.
But the media jumps all over it.
Oh, they have to.
I mean, they don't have to. They just do.
Well. Because as slaves to the narrative, they have to.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's accurate.
You know what I mean? So it's like they can't help themselves. They are compelled by their ideology because that's what feeds it.
Yeah. I mean, it's the thing. I mean, and it's even, if somebody goes, huh?
Right.
Wait, what? What does it say?
Yeah,
that's one thing because it sounds weird.
It obviously does, because it's anachronistic and it makes everybody feel icky when people say that.
Right, because it's really outdated.
It's really outdated.
I'm really surprised that the word color or colored was in there at all, because I would think you could have just as easily said minority.
Yeah, minority homeowners.
I mean, minority homeowners. I mean, that to me makes a whole lot more sense just from a writing perspective. I don't know how the of color thing, but the explanation that KMOV put out there actually makes a lot of sense. And having been a television anchor in my career, I know exactly what happens. That's why one of the reasons I was intent on writing every word that I broadcast from the scripted part of my old TV show, Missouri Viewpoint, the old syndicated TV show, Missouri Viewpoints. I wrote my intros. I wrote my outros. I wrote my pitches. I wrote all of that so that I owned it for good or bad on this. So many people have a hand in putting what's on television. Corey Stark and Samantha Jones and all the others, you go to any other stations, they're the ones who present it. Like in Europe, it's not a broadcaster or an anchor, it's a presenter.
Right.
That's what they call them. So, you could say, well, should Corey Stark have just had that instinct to go, oh, I'm not going to say that.
But no.
Well, fine if you want to say that.
The prompter is moving. You're going to read the dang words. That's kind of how it works.
Yeah. I mean, and the guy said, I didn't mean to say that. I apologize. Why isn't that good enough anymore? Why do we need a pound of flesh from a guy who, from what I can tell, has never offended anybody, at all? I couldn't find anything that he's like made somebody mad on. He's a news anchor. He's a reporter. He was reading what was on there.
Well, the god of the narrative is insatiable and requires a sacrifice every once in a while. That's how that works. I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but I legitimately think there is a spiritual aspect to the narrative, because the people who are slaves to the narrative, they behave as though they are the priesthood of a religion that is dedicated to this ideology, and they sacrifice babies in the womb. They sacrifice individuals by destroying their careers through cancellation and stuff like that. They sometimes sacrifice each other. You ever see these leftists go after one another when you take one slight foot off of the reservation? Look what they're doing to J.K. Rowling, right? Trying to turn her into some sort of crazy person.
She's a leftist, and they're going after her.
Absolutely. So the narrative is a god to these people.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you're kind of on fire with your analogies today.
Oh, thank you.
That's for sure. But that's what's crazy. There are people who go around looking for reasons to attack and get angry with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're looking for reasons to be offended. Now, first of all, that's a really horrible way to live your life.
Oh, it's pathetic.
And there are things that a news anchor could say, even by mistake, that I would go, okay, you're on your own, dude.
Right.
You better take the heat for that one. I just don't think that this one's fair.
No, it's definitely not fair, especially when you get down to the whole teleprompter script thing. Yeah, like that makes it even more real, because I couldn't imagine being a broadcaster, whose job is just to read other people's words that way,
right,
in live and without rehearsal. Like, I couldn't imagine putting my fate basically in the hands of somebody else.
Listen, I've been there when breaking news stories were happening, and we were typing in and writing in the words like during the thing, like breaking news inserted in. Those anchors, they did not see that before it hit the teleprompter, and you have to have trust in your entire team.
Oof.
That's the behind the scenes that happened. Now, do I have time for like one really funny story? So I was working at an NBC affiliate in another city once. I was an assignment editor, so I wasn't the guy on the air. I was behind. I was planning out which stories the reporters would cover and who would do interviews, and I was coordinating that part. So the producer would tell me, here's what I'm looking for. I'd say, here are the stories we've got, and then we'd coordinate that. That was my job. And we decided to mess with one of our anchors. And so we made up a fictional story, not for the air. We did it plenty of time earlier.
Okay.
But we made up a story about a brawl that broke out at a sumo wrestling tournament in Japan, and just made up all sorts of nonsensical Japanese words as names, and like this, this wrestler attacked this wrestler, and this. And so all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we hear the anchor, a very prim and proper Emmy-winning anchor, out of nowhere scream, "What the F?" We all lost it in the newsroom. And so our prank worked. It was hilarious. That was about 25 years ago that we did that. But yeah, I mean, what do you think? I mean, is this fair? Is this unfair? I mean, or is there something that says, hey, you're in a hypercharged area. If you mess up and you say an outdated term, you got to own it for a little bit. You got to fall on the sword. I just think it's overblown, and I think the national media jumping on a St. Louis slip of the tongue or slip of the script, I think is nonsense. But that doesn't stop them from doing it, like you said.
Yeah.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com. News Talk STL, always streaming on your smart speaker, our mobile app, or newstalkstl.com.
It's a new year, so come check out the great financing offers going on now at Seavers JCB. Rates as low as 0.99% on nearly all JCB compact construction equipment, including the industry-leading JCB Teleskid. For details, go to SeaversJCB.com. Mini excavators, track loaders, small wheel loaders, and even the industry-leading JCB compact load all range. Seavers JCB has them all. Visit SeaversJCB.com for more information.
Attention! This is a public notice from the Social Security Disability Helpline. If you're one of the millions of Americans who are disabled and unable to work, you may be eligible for disability benefits from Social Security. Receiving benefits is your right. If you suffer from physical or mental disability, whether you're applying for the first time or you've already been denied, we can help. We'll evaluate your situation and deal with Social Security on your behalf. Best of all, there's no fee until you receive your benefits. Remember, we only get paid if you win your case. There are many reasons and conditions that may make you eligible for disability benefits. Many of them you may not be aware of. So if you're disabled and unable to work, call now to get started with your free, no-obligation consultation.
800-797-0711. 800-797-0711. 800-797-0711. That's 800-797-0711.
Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
And we are joined now by my RedState colleague, Bonchie. Good morning, Bonchie.
Good morning.
How are you?
Doing good.
Have you recovered from last night?
I think I've recovered.
Okay.
That was the most unhinged, crazy speech I've ever heard in my life.
Has he stopped shouting yet?
I mean that seriously. I mean, you guys watched it, obviously. The first 30 minutes, he was just shouting uncontrollably. I don't understand what presentation he was trying to give with that.
Yeah, it wasn't. Well, I know it wasn't designed to persuade me of anything other than that he's a ranty old man. But I mean, it definitely there was nothing engaging about it for somebody who either wasn't already in his camp or might have been kind of on the fence. I don't know how that would have brought somebody over to his side, if you will.
Yeah, if you're Joe Scarborough, you loved it. But other than that, I don't.
Joe Scarborough loved it before he presented it. So
I just, and I wrote this last night in my write-up on it. I just have a hard time believing that is he 82 or 81 now? I can't keep up.
He's 81. He'll be 82 after the election, right?
I just have a hard time believing that an 81-year-old man screaming and shouting and banging his fists on the podium is going to appeal to swing voters. I could be wrong. It's hard for me to believe.
I think you're right about that. I do think that maybe part of the idea there is to shore up the wobbly part of his base, not the people that wouldn't necessarily vote for him, but the people that are doubting him because of his age and his acuity and his vigor. They certainly, had him pumped up and ready to go last night with energy, and maybe that was to sort of silence or put to rest some of the rumblings from his own camp about his ability.
Yeah, they wanted the talking point, and you can see it in the press this morning. It's all over the place. The Washington Post did the energetic and impassioned meme. So I mean, they got their talking point. I just think, and maybe because a lot of people probably aren't going to watch the speech, they're not going to see what it really was. So I understand it could be a win for the White House. I don't know. We'll see in the next few weeks what the polling looks like. But I mean, I think if you actually watched it, you didn't see energetic and impassioned. You saw somebody, like you said, that looked like he was hopped up on amphetamines.
Right.
I mean, it was very, very surreal to see the first half of that speech, and then he kind of crashed later and kind of calmed down a bit. Of course, he mixed up he couldn't pronounce Laken Riley's name.
Nope.
So I mean that kind of busted his big moment during the speech. But I mean, I don't know. We'll see how it turns out, but I'm not confident it's going to be some big game changer. And I'm not sure these State of the Unions are ever big game changers.
Yeah, I don't think that they necessarily are. And it'll be interesting to see the poll numbers next week to see if there's any little bit of a bump there. The one that I think might have been just a little bit, I was talking about this earlier. There was a speech that Donald Trump gave. I think it was in 2017, so it wasn't technically State of the Union, but it was the equivalent of that since it was his first, couple months in office. And that was when even his detractors were like, this was the night when Donald Trump became president, because he gave a pretty presidential speech and he kind of showed people that he had it in him. And I think that moved the needle for him a little bit, but that was early in his presidency. And obviously that didn't really take away the Trump derangement syndrome that we see in so many people anyway.
Yeah. And I think you kind of drew the contrast there as far as that speech was very presidential and the press proclaimed it as very presidential. Last night's speech was a stump speech.
No, yeah.
And John, even CNN's John King said he'd never seen anything like it. Like it was angry, divisive. He started, one of the weirdest moments was he did it twice in about a 5-minute period. He looked over at the Republicans and started heckling them. Like it was so just, I mean, and I'm not big on the whole decorum thing, but it was just weird.
It was.
I mean, it was a very weird moment.
It was weird because it seemed like it was scripted in a way, but he didn't really pull it off right.
Yeah, which is a trend for him.
Yeah.
He's on the teleprompter.
Kind of his stock in trade.
Morning, Bonchie, Gabe Pfeiffer here. So one of the things I tend to look at in the State of the Union addresses are proposals, basically, that the executive is kind of bringing up. You know, here's the thing that we're going to do. Usually State of the Union is kind of where you roll out a new program or something like that. Now, I didn't watch the whole thing. I was busy, but I did catch a clip of him basically saying that we're going to start supplying Hamas by building a pier with our military. Were there any other crazy proposals that I missed in this crazy speech?
I mean, I think that's the biggest one. I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all to me. You know, we're going to send, because you don't just build a port. You're going to have to send American servicemen and women into harm's way in the middle of rockets being fired and Hamas carrying out attacks and in one of the most dangerous areas of the world right now, to build a port to give food that's going to just be taken by the terrorists. Like, it's a terrible idea. And that was really a bigger, I think, part of his speech last night. He was trying to assuage his radical base, the ceasefire lunatics who were blocking his motorcade before the speech. I mean, he was trying to make them happy and say, "Look, I care about this." But I think it's a stretch to say that's going to work, or that it's not a terrible idea. I mean, I don't get it at all. And, you know, there were some other things he said about student loans, and he lied about cutting the deficit. And there was nothing in his policy proposals that I think spoke to the heart of what Americans are dealing with. And this is something I noticed immediately. The first 20 minutes of the speech were Ukraine and January 6th, like, not inflation, not the economy. He didn't get to the border crisis till almost 45 minutes in, you know? Yeah. So, I mean, these are the things that polling consistently says people care about, and he doesn't care about them. And I think that came across in the speech last night, even though he didn't mean it to.
I thought one of the interesting things, too, was, you know, the contrast then between his delivery and Katie Britt's delivery. And I know there have been some detractors as far as the actual delivery, but the substance of what she said, I think, drew a very good contrast, because she was addressing those kitchen table issues, literally from the kitchen table.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there were some issues with her delivery, like you said, but you know, I won't beat up on her too bad. I think there were some issues there, but like you said, the content of what she was talking about were the things that Americans talk about and care about. And, you know, when I took my 3 weeks off from RedState, didn't write, didn't really follow politics much, you know, and I was gone away from home for that period for, you know, some other real life stuff. You know, and everybody I talked to, they didn't talk about anything but inflation. And I heard interest rates a lot too. Like, people cared that they can't buy a house, you know, and these were people that I was meeting at the thing that I was at. And, you know, and this was completely non-political. So I say that to say that people care about these kitchen table issues that she hit on last night. And in Biden's speech, he just brushed over them. You know, it was, well, inflation's coming down. It was 9%. Now it's 3 whatever percent. Well, it was 2% when you took office. So do you really get credit for that? You know, I mean, right. And I think people see that and they understand what's going on with their bank accounts, and you can't gaslight them about that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that in the end of it, I really question whether this moved the needle for anybody. It certainly gave us stuff to write about and talk about. And speaking of which, you know, you mentioned you were gone from RedState for a couple of weeks, and I just want to be on the air and open about that. Don't ever do that again. You were very missed. We had people very concerned, like, where's Bud?
Yeah, they thought I got fired.
Yeah, we're like, no, he's coming back. We promise.
He's on assignment.
Yes, he was. But yes, his absence was very much noticed. He's one of our top writers, and people always enjoy his insights. What are you working on today, Bonchie?
As soon as I get off of this call, I've got to start working on the father that was arrested last night for heckling Biden, the Gold Star father. So, and there's a picture of it that's now went viral. It's just a terrible optics for the White House, I think.
Pro tip: look at the charge he is charged with. Incommoding is a new word I learned today.
I have no idea what that means.
Neither did we. You're going to have fun with it. Well, listen, Bonchie, we appreciate you being on with us. Where can folks find your work?
RedState.com.
All right. And on Twitter, you are?
at Bonchie RedState.
All right, folks, look him up. Thanks for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bonchie.
All right. See you later.
Right.
For podcast, articles, and more, find us on newstalkstl.com.
Thanks for taking my call.
News, analysis, opinion.
Radio news junkie. Love every bit about it.
News Talk STL.
Katie here, and I'd like to talk to you guys about Michael's Flooring Outlet. You could gain peace of mind with Michael's Flooring Outlet for your flooring and carpet installation needs. Their team of experts ensures that the job is done right the first time, providing you with attentive and a personalized service. Just like my parents, you can trust them to replace your old carpet with beautiful hardwood flooring. Visit one of their 3 locations in Dardenne Prairie, St. Peters, or Creve Coeur, or check them out at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
How'd you like to eliminate your expensive cable bill forever or get new satellite internet where cable can't go? Well, now you can have affordable satellite internet service for a few dollars a day. All you need is a mini satellite installed, and you can have unlimited internet connections wirelessly in your home or office. And no cable boxes means unlimited connections and no clutter. You can surf the internet or stream any of your favorite television services with no cable. And the best part is, satellite internet service costs only a few dollars a day for your entire home. Yes, fast internet to surf or stream television for a few bucks a day. Call now for free details and learn how to drop your expensive cable bill.
800-696-2871. 800-696-2871. 800-696-2871. That's 800-696-2871.
I heard the call to serve, so I answered. I earned a title and discovered my purpose. I found belonging, an unbreakable bond with my fellow Marines. We fought to overcome adversity together in defense of our nation and its people. I've lived a full life, rich with meaning. And even though I no longer wear the uniform, I am still a Marine. My service has come full circle. I will always look after those around me. I will always uplift and support my country and my community. Because that is the promise I made. That is what it means to be a Marine. Semper Fidelis. Always faithful, always Marine.
HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefontaine, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. With former President Trump on the verge of clinching the GOP presidential nomination and President Biden well on his way to being the Democrat standard bearer, the 2024 presidential campaign kicked into high gear in Georgia over the weekend with both candidates holding rallies in the Peach State.
The president delivered his post-State of the Union message in Atlanta.
Our freedoms are literally on the ballot this November. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans are trying to take our freedoms away.
Meanwhile, former President Trump rallied supporters in Rome, Georgia.
Under Biden, we have a 3-year inflation rate of almost 50%. Under me, you had no inflation.
The dueling rallies came ahead of Georgia's presidential primary on Tuesday. Greg Clugston, Washington.
As a ceasefire remains elusive, the war in Gaza rages on. The explosive conflict ignited by the brutal Hamas terror attack on Israel in October. The BBC's Yolanda Nell in Jerusalem.
Hopes for a ceasefire, which would have seen the release of some of the remaining Israeli hostages held by Hamas, have stalled, with both sides blaming each other. Meanwhile, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to press ahead with an offensive in Rafah in southern Gaza, saying this is key to defeating Hamas. The US President Joe Biden had earlier described carrying out such an operation in the area, crowded with displaced people, as his red line.
Word this morning that the leader of al-Qaeda in Yemen is dead. The U.S. government had a $5 million bounty on the head of the terrorist leader. Oppenheimer reigned at last night's 96th Annual Academy Awards. 7 Oscars in the movie, including Best Picture, Best Director for Christopher Nolan. Cillian Murphy took Best Actor honors, Best Supporting Actor, Robert Downey Jr. Wall Street this morning, the Dow futures down 83 points, NASDAQ futures up 3 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
She's gone from reporting on the sidelines to making sense of the headlines. It's the Michelle Tafoya podcast on the Salem Podcast Network.
There are people, Democrat operatives, that are saying, things are not looking good. Maybe Mr. Biden needs to bow out. Maybe the president needs to take a look at what's best for the party and say, you know what, I'm not going to run again.
Subscribe to the Michelle Tafoya podcast today on Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Sunshine and a warm southerly flow team up for some beautiful weather today and Tuesday. Winds out of the south and southwest at 5 to 15 miles per hour today. Looking at afternoon highs from around 70 to 73 degrees. Tonight, clear, mild, down to 47 for the early morning low. Tuesday, sunshine in the morning, partly cloudy in the afternoon, but even warmer, up to 75 tomorrow afternoon. Looks a little unsettled for the second half of the week with on and off rain and some thunderstorms. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Senior Memorial. Give Benjamin Schaefer a call at 314-866-8886 or visit memorialplans.com. Senior Memorial Heritage Protection.
To all our incredible supporters, we at the David Dorn Foundation say thank you. Your 5-star online reviews that you recently posted are beacons of encouragement on our mission to assist first responders. And a shout out to Steve Katraba, who reviewed us with these powerful words. The Dorn Foundation continues to fill a need in the public safety community and thereby to the public. Steve, your words are more than a review. They show the impact we're making for first responders. To read more strong reviews, Google the Dorn Foundation now.
Does your life insurance plan include living benefits, hearing, diabetic supplies, teledoc service, discounts on urns, caskets, tombstones? Larry Connors here. I suggest you call Benjamin Schaefer at Senior Memorial. Call 314-866-8886 or visit memorialplans.com. Memorialplans.com. Senior Memorial Heritage Protection.
News, analysis, and opinion.
Let the American people see what's going on here.
News Talk STL.
Pay close attention.
St. Louis is number one.
Bottom line is this. St. Louis is number one.
For conservative talk.
News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Gabe Pfeiffer.
We have a hope.
Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up.
What do you call a genius in President Biden's Homeland Security Department? A visitor.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up.
Get up. You can't hear the alarm. It might be because it didn't spring forward, and you're an hour behind. But it's Monday, and it's 6:05, and you're listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show on News Talk STL. Susie Moore filling in for Mike one more time while he is out playing old man baseball, and here in the studio with Gabe and Stell, and we've got a full show today, even if it is the Monday after springing forward, and everyone's still trying to kind of adjust to that.
I hate this so much.
Do you?
I do. I don't know whether or not I want the one version, the standard time or daylight time or what have you. I just want them to stop moving it. It's kind of like just stop and let me off kind of feeling.
There's a big movement towards that. I mean, we're starting to see there's a bipartisan piece of legislation in Congress that Marco Rubio and Ed Markey have sponsored. And,
okay.
I mean, we may see that come to an end, and I think if we do, we'll stay in the forward time, in the daylight
daylight
the
time?
saving time, daylight
Okay.
saving time.
Okay.
Which is it's 8 months of the year anyway. I mean, that goes from March till November.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here for it. I would much rather be with light lasting longer into the afternoon and evening than the way we do from November through.
You know, I saw a description from a friend of mine who's a meteorologist in Greensboro, North Carolina. Tim Buxley is his name, and I put it on my Facebook page. He looks at all aspects of it. He looks at the central time, the daylight saving time, and doing it half and half and doing a couple of different things. And he says, here, read this, and you decide. And after reading it, I have to say I do go with the daylight saving time.
Yeah.
I think it would be a nice idea to
Just
have
keep
it year-round.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at this point, it's what really is the point? I mean, we're not all out farming.
No.
We don't need to do the, well, is there, well, I haven't heard a strong argument for why we need to go back to standard time for 4 months of the year. Maybe there is one. I haven't heard it.
I haven't heard it either. As best I can tell, it's just that, well, we've always done it this way sort of situation.
Yeah.
And that
That's not a strong
as conservative as I am, you know, I don't like to tear down the fences that I don't understand. That's one fence I get in terms of the effects it has on the world, and none of it is positive. Everybody just comes at it, it's like, oh my gosh, what's happening?
Well, I've seen other folks say, why not have a national holiday the day after? Because everybody has so much trouble adjusting to it. Today should be a national holiday.
I know they say
or that.
Statistically, there are more accidents, maybe more in the evening, but in the day after the adjustment, because people are, I guess, their brains are still making that adjustment, and the lighting's different and that sort of thing.
Fog.
I did see a lot of people complaining on social media yesterday. Now, the one thing I think is nice about it is, it's Saturday into Sunday, so the quote unquote losing an hour is, I think, less harsh than if it were like Sunday into Monday.
Right.
I didn't really mind it that much. I mean, like, I was up and ready to go, and I work Sunday mornings now, so it's like I was ready to go and all about it, and I'm like, I'm here for it. So I'm happy to be here, even if it's 6:08 when it feels like it's 5:08.
Yeah. Gosh.
Kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So we've got a ton of stuff to talk about today here on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show, which, by the way, you can listen to obviously on the radio, or you can stream online. You can watch us on Facebook and on Rumble and on Twitter and theoretically YouTube, but they might be being cranky right now, right?
Yeah.
And if you can't listen live, you can download the podcast. You can listen to us basically anywhere, anytime, and we appreciate you doing so. We are the #1 show for live and local conservative talk, so we appreciate you being here with us. Like I said, we've got tons to talk about today. It was a busy weekend news-wise. There's lots of kind of follow-up cleanup from the State of the Union address, various lies or less than truths that our president said from the podium. Some of the embarrassments, like in the post, I guess, like the wrap-up shows up. I mean, I don't know. He's embarrassed himself in a number of ways. He's definitely showed that he doesn't have the same energy level in the appearances he's made since then. So there's lots to talk about there. Last night was the Oscars, which I don't know if either of you watched.
Nah.
Did not.
No.
Nope.
I did not either, and so I don't have a whole lot to say about that, other than I did see a news blurb that there were protesters that were blocking the streets on the way to the theater where it was being held. So even the celebrities had to deal with, a little bit of discomfort, but I think they all made it to their place. There's weird stuff going on in Haiti. That's not terribly unusual.
No.
It seems like a lot of times there's weird stuff going on in Haiti, but like we evacuated our embassy over the weekend. That's kind of a big
Oh, wow. That's kind of a big deal.
Yeah. And what the heck is going on with United Airlines? They have had like multiple mishaps in the past week. As somebody who doesn't fly anymore, I'm feeling vindicated. I don't know.
See, I told you.
I know. I was onto something. So that's kind of crazy. We've got great guests coming up. We're going to be joined later on in the 6 o'clock hour by my RedState colleague, Joe Cunningham, talk about some of the latest politics and news stories going on. And since he's a Louisianan, get some of his impressions and thoughts on Speaker Mike Johnson and how he's doing now that he's a couple months into his tenure as the Speaker. And then I think in the 7 o'clock hour, we're going to be joined by Tristan Leavitt, who's the president of Empower. If the name sounds vaguely familiar, it's because he's one of the attorneys that represents the whistleblowers, like at the federal level. And so he's testified before Congress before. He was there when they had the FBI whistleblowers testify. He was the guy sitting there with them. So he's going to be interesting to talk to. I'm looking forward to that. But one of the things that I think has been
big story over the weekend, particularly here locally, but it's also made it national, unfortunately, is this horrific story involving the Hazelwood East students, I guess they all were, and the fight that broke out near the school. I guess it was Friday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
I first saw something about this, I don't know if it was Saturday night or maybe it was yesterday morning, on Twitter. And the first thing I saw about it was that a student had died. And I was like, what am I missing? And then I went back and the initial reports were incorrect. The student who was injured and is hospitalized is in critical condition, but has not died.
Mm-hmm.
But for anyone who hasn't seen the story or hasn't had the misfortune of seeing the video, because the video is graphic and it's really disturbing.
It's hard to see.
It's it starts out, it's focused basically on two girls that are getting into it physically, but there's a lot of kids milling around, and a couple other kids are involved in sort of like offshoot scuffles, if you will.
Yeah.
Someone's obviously filming it, of course, which I guess in some ways is probably for the best, because you can kind of see what happened. But the two girls really get into it, and who knows what set it off. I have no way of knowing. I don't want to speculate, but they fall to the ground, and the one girl, who is bigger than the other girl, appears to be certainly pretty strong, starts basically like slamming her head on the concrete.
Yeah.
And the video I saw, she's finally, I don't even know that she was pulled off of her or she's away from her, but the girl's laying on the ground and looked like she was maybe convulsing.
She was having a seizure. Yeah. That was part of the story that was confirmed also.
Yeah.
Her head was slammed, like I guess according to witnesses, into the concrete 3 times.
Yeah.
And after that, she went into a seizure.
Yeah. I'm describing it so that you don't have to watch it if you don't want to, because it's pretty horrific.
Yeah.
And as I said, the latest reports are that girl, who I think is 15, is hospitalized and in critical condition. The other girl, the one who was slamming her head, is also 15 and has been arrested.
Mm-hmm.
An arrest was made, I think, Saturday morning, because the police were called, from what I understand, got to the scene pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And then an arrest was made on Saturday morning. Of course, given the age, it's being handled by the juvenile courts right now, which that's one of the interesting things. People are screaming for this young lady to be tried as an adult and charged as an adult. Well, I get that, and she may be. It's a pretty serious situation. But Wesley Bell, I saw, chimed in on this last night on Twitter. I think it was last night. And he was saying, this is horrific. It's horrible. We want justice to be served. Just so people know, this is out of my hands right now. This is because it is a juvenile court matter.
Mm-hmm.
It is not currently up to the St. Louis County prosecutor to deal with the charging elements of it. Now,
right. He's got nothing until the judge in the juvenile court decides one way or the other.
There has to be a hearing and determination that she can be certified to be charged and tried as an adult, and at that point, then it becomes the purview of the St. Louis County prosecutor.
Right.
So, what was your first reaction when you saw it?
Well, it was, first of all, it was the horror of it. I'll say this actually. Immediately, it was. I didn't quite see the headlines. I'm scrolling through my news feed, and I see what looks to be another standard school fight video, right? Which has become sadly common. And then I see that it's Hazelwood, and as the video goes, I see the girl get her head slammed into the concrete. I was like, oh boy, this is serious, and I start reading it up a little bit more on the whole situation, and it just gets worse from there. I can't remember if this was the high school that Tony Colombo's kids would have been going to, but
certainly the district.
It's certainly the same district. Yeah, so it's rough because there's Hazelwood East and West.
Yeah.
And this was at East. But gosh, my heart goes out to anybody who's still trapped in these, the K through 12 education system right now, almost anywhere. Like I haven't found a good one,
No.
basically. I'm looking from the outside in, obviously. So there are some. I'm sure my best friend, he's a teacher over in where the heck is he? I can't remember. Anyway, that school district seems to be okay, at least okay-ish.
Yeah.
From what the reports he's telling me. But gosh, get your kids out of these things if you can.
Yeah, you do. These things tend to kind of derive from public school. We haven't heard of any big melees at a private school that I can think of.
No, they would be rare if you see them at all, right?
Right. There was that one out of Las Vegas, I think it was last year, where the kid died. similar type situation
Yeah,
where it was kind of like kind of became a big melee and he got a little bit ganged up on, and unfortunately he died. And
oh man,
I mean, it's serious. And I don't know if this young girl's out of the woods or not.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, we don't know what set it off, but if you've got kids that think that the way to solve the problem is to get physical and beat the snot out of each other, you got a problem.
Yeah, the kids are not okay.
They are not okay. And, of course, as I said, the tragic part of all this is it's horrific no matter what. But, of course, now it's made the national news, too. And so, once again, St. Louis is not covering itself in glory.
No, not at all.
We have a tendency to do that. Well, we've got plenty more to talk about, and we'll probably come back and talk about that a little bit more, too, later in the day. Or in the morning. You're listening to us on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL. We'll be back right after this.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Don't try to make me stop, no inspiration. You have a soul so dark, it is no more. And all at once depart, no destination. You're making cold my heart to fight your war. Stop it right now. I have had enough of this. Turn my eyes to your indifference. Stop it right now before you blow us all away. You wanna do that now? Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up, this is your cousin car. Get up, what are you waiting for? Get up.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Tim Jones here. I'm with Eric from Newsteaders, Newsteaders Fine Jewelers. Eric, Newsteaders has been around since 1961. Tell us the story.
Well, Richard started this 62 years ago, and we've stayed a local family-owned store since then. We've actually got 3 generations of Newsteaders working in the store. Richard, his wife, his daughter, and his granddaughter, and we all love what we do. We're kind of a St. Louis family tradition, and we do a lot of unique and one-of-a-kind custom pieces, as well as repairs. There's basically nothing that we can't do, and all of our work is done on site, so you can feel secure knowing that your jewelry never leaves, which is unusual now. And we can computer generate images of custom pieces if you want to go custom. We can take that old jewelry that you're not wearing, and we can turn that into something new that you absolutely love.
Newsteaders, a St. Louis jewelry tradition since 1961. Stop by and find out why. 2961 Daughtery Ferry Road, or on the internet, wowdiamonds.com for Newsteaders Fine Jewelers.
I'm Susie Moore, and this is More to the Point.
On Sunday, ABC's George Stephanopoulos attempted to shame Congresswoman Nancy Mace for endorsing former President Donald Trump in his 2024 bid for the presidency. Stephanopoulos raised the fact that Mace is a rape victim to question how she could support someone found liable for rape. Setting aside the fact that he's wrong on that legally, Stephanopoulos' attempt to use Mace's victimhood to shame her was a new low. It got me to thinking about the politics of shame and the fact that Americans typically don't respond favorably to such efforts, or at least didn't before COVID. We're oppositionally defiant by nature. It's sort of how we as a nation came to be. The more you badger and bully, the more we're liable to dig in and say no. But we're in the era now where the opposition, including politicians ostensibly hungry for our votes, often default to denigration in presumably an effort to win them. Support the other guy? You're a bitter clinger, a deplorable, a white, rural, rage-filled, racist rube. Well, all right then. If you think that's going to win me over to your way of thinking, you go right ahead. But I've got news for you. That's not how most folks are wired. And it's liable to backfire on you in a big way.
Susie Moore is Deputy Managing Editor for RedState.com. For more to the point and everything Susie Moore, log on to RedState.com. Follow Susie on Twitter at SmoozyQ and keep listening to 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at Stifel.com. That's Stifel.com.
Good morning, St. Louis. It's Ben Shapiro. Join me every weeknight for The Ben Shapiro Show. But right now, back to the Mike Ferguson Show on the new conservative voice of St. Louis, 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Sometimes I sit and I dream on for hours.
Well, it may not be Flashback Friday, but we still got good bumper music going on, so
Indeed.
I'm here for it.
Okay.
Helps get us woken up and energized and going. So, welcome back. You are listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL. Susie Moore filling in for Mike today, here with Gabe and Stell. And one of the recent developments on the political scene is one that we've been following closely at RedState because, not to toot our own horn too much, but I would say we may have had a little bit of a hand in some of the changing of the guard at the RNC.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a little bit of background. So Ronna McDaniel was the chair or the head of the RNC for, I think, 7 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, she came out.
Pretty long tenure, actually.
Yeah, it was actually. You know, when you think about it, because those positions tend to kind of roll over like every 2, 3, 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And she came out of Michigan. She's obviously related to Mitt Romney, and I think she kind of rode in on a high out of Michigan. They did well there in 2016, and she was sort of handpicked by Donald Trump and approved, and she chaired the committee all these years. Well, they haven't really been racking up the wins since then. There have been some very big disappointments. Obviously, 2020 was a disappointment from the presidential standpoint. 2022 was thought to be, a favorable year for the Republicans, and the so-called anticipated red wave, was a red puddle.
Yeah, pretty much.
It wasn't much. So there haven't been a lot of great results to tout and crow about. And on top of that, some of you all may recall me talking about our managing editor at RedState, Jennifer Van Laar. She's my boss and also a good friend of mine, and someone I've known for a dozen years, who is one of the most intrepid, dogged investigative reporters I am familiar with. She will dig in on something, and she will dig and dig and dig, and she will get to the bottom of it.
Yes, I've seen it.
Yes. And so, yeah, you don't want to be on the investigative end of her sites. And so what she did was dig into the finances at the RNC and how they were spending things. There was a tussle last year at Ford leadership. Harmeet Dillon, who's the attorney from the Center for American Liberty and kind of a prominent sort of civil rights type attorney for on the right side of the spectrum, challenged Ronna McDaniel for the seat, and I think she had a fair amount of support, but she did not have the votes needed to win that. And so anyway, Jen did some digging into the finances and the expenditures, and what she found was that it seemed that while fundraising numbers were not good, they were down.
Mm-hmm.
The expenditures were questionable. There's a lot of money going out the door of the RNC on, limos, car service, flowers.
Right, yeah.
There was a lot of like meals in and around the main offices in D.C. that didn't lend themselves to donor events. In other words, it looked like the people that worked at the RNC were just going out for lunch and billing it to the RNC.
Right, basically.
And
little moondoggle here and there.
Yeah,
Never hurt anybody,
exactly,
they say.
Exactly. They were paying a lot of consultants. And so bottom line is there were questions.
Mm-hmm.
And
legitimate questions.
And I think if you're winning and you're doing a job that is successful, people are less likely to scrutinize these sorts of things as closely.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not producing results and you're spending money willy-nilly,
yeah,
people want to know why are you getting this money, and why are you the person in charge of it? So she does this investigative report. She did the first one a year and a half ago. She did another one about a month ago, and we have it on good authority that President Trump was aware of that and saw that. And it was after that story was published that he started making noise about maybe there needed to be a change of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not going to claim that we singularly were responsible for that.
No.
I think the rumblings were already there.
Sure.
But I think that went a long way towards encouraging the change. And as it became clearer and clearer that he was going to be the nominee, he obviously has a big say. Right now, he's the basically for better or worse, he's the face of the Republican Party.
De facto leader.
He's the de facto leader of the Republican Party. And so he has a realistic and a reasonable say in who's leading the RNC. So bottom line is this. They had their winter meeting last week, and Ronna McDaniel had signaled that she would be stepping down. I think she got the talking to and decided it was better. So she has officially resigned and has been replaced now at the RNC by Michael Whatley, I think he's out of North Carolina. He's not somebody I'm familiar with. I think he was maybe the lead of the GOP there in North Carolina, and he was sort of handpicked by Donald Trump. And the co-chair now is Trump's daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, married to Eric Trump. So that's a big change. It's an interesting change because, I think I understand why some people question whether it's perhaps a good idea to have a family member who benefits directly from that person's. I mean, you want them they should have aligned interests. You want them to want that person to be successful.
Right.
I think there are questions that are legitimately being asked about how much of the donor money is and can be used as far as offsetting some of the legal expenses that Donald Trump is faced with. Not that those expenses are just or warranted necessarily, but the bottom line is he's got a lot of outstanding legal bills, and there are questions about, okay, how does that all get funded? So, I mean, it's a big change. It is a definitely a shift, and it's going to be interesting to see if the change in leadership, A, produces results. That's the most important thing. B, changes how they handle things from an expense standpoint. She was on some of the shows over the weekend. I know she was on with, I think, Maria Bartiromo, and Laura Trump was, and she said, she noted that the 3 pillars of their organization now are going to be, I have to look and see what they are. I should have brought this over here. Let's see, the 3 pillars that we need to focus on at the RNC to ensure victory on November 5th: turn out the vote.
Yes.
Protect the vote.
Okay.
And raise money.
Well, that's pretty much what campaigning is, right?
Yes. Well, I think she's right on that. Those are the things that need to be focused on. They need to be ready preemptively with legal challenges, because there are going to be shenanigans all over the place.
Oh, they've already started.
Yes, they have. I mean, we're 8 months out from the election, and we're already dealing with stuff like that. So they've got to be on the ball. I honestly don't know a whole lot about Laura Trump's background. I know she's not that great a singer. I'm
Really?
sorry. No offense to anybody who loves her. I mean, I have nothing against her personally, but did you see the song that came out a couple months ago?
I didn't. There's the Trumps are just kind of all over. They got shoes and songs and NFT trading cards and like, come on, guys, focus, come on, let's go.
And I want to be clear. I mean, I think she's a lovely woman, and it's not that she has a bad voice. I mean, I think she's somebody who could get up and sing karaoke, and you'd be like, oh, she did a good job. She just doesn't have necessarily a great voice and a great presence.
Yeah, for like a true pro singing stuff, when you get out there, you got to do better than the karaoke.
It was a little
level.
try hard.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if I offend anybody. I'm sorry. Nothing. It's not a knock on her personally. It's just I think she's better off. I hope she's better off at the RNC.
Right. Exactly. That's the only thing for sure is that she's a mediocre to good singer. But I don't know where her history lends itself to this sort of position either. I mean, I'm willing to give her a chance. Can it be worse than Ronna McDaniel?
That's a good question. I mean, she really, Ronna really kind of fell on her face, and I think that, rightly has been roundly criticized, and she kind of seemed to be tone deaf. I mean, there were so many people that were trying to get the RNC more engaged. For instance, Scott Pressler with his his voter drives, that sort of thing. And there didn't seem to be much effort at really working with the grassroots and growing the base and that sort of thing. And I hope we'll see a change there. And of course, it's not just Laura Trump, it's Michael Whatley as well. So maybe he's kind of handling more of the business aspect of things, and she's going to be handling more of the outreach aspect of things. We've got it's a tall order. We've got to get got to get people out to vote, got to get people registered to vote, got to make sure that they do protect their vote. In order for the Republicans to be successful in November, they've got to make sure that they do it right.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know. When we come back, we're going to be talking to my RedState colleague, Joe Cunningham. He's going to have some thoughts, I'm sure, about politics and the state of the race and such. So stick around here listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show on News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter.
I dream of a girl I once knew as a schoolboy.
Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
She was the one who could send me away. But she is a long ways away, and I wanna be with her today. I think of a way I can get back. Oh, I don't know way back home. Sing me away, oh.
What happens next?
I'm not going to fund Ukraine until we secure our own border.
Happens right here.
Planning to go Thursday. What I didn't know is my good friend apparently is going.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Sunshine and a warm southerly flow team up for some beautiful weather today and Tuesday. Winds out of the south and southwest at 5 to 15 miles per hour today. Looking at afternoon highs from around 70 to 73 degrees. Tonight, clear, mild, down to 47 for the early morning low. Tuesday, sunshiny in the morning, partly cloudy in the afternoon, but even warmer, up to 75 tomorrow afternoon. Looks a little unsettled for the second half of the week with on and off rain and some thunderstorms. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This week on News Talk STL.
I was just informed that we got double the number of votes that has ever been received in the great state of South Carolina.
The Democrats, the media, and the Biden legal team are trying to revive this Russia 2.0.
Speaker Johnson needs to do what's best for the American people.
News, analysis, and opinion.
What needs to happen is better communication between local law enforcement and the federal government.
Everywhere across the country, because every state has become a border state now.
1019 and 94.1.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Springtime is officially almost here, and that's got a lot of people thinking about home improvement and really investing into your property. One of the best ways you can do that is by calling my friends at Window World. Mike Ferguson here for Window World. Remember, they are simply the best for less, and you can get in touch with them at 314-993-1800. And I know you may say, Mike, windows, what's the big deal? If I need a window, I'll go buy a window. Well, Window World windows are different for a variety of reasons. One, simply the best for less. They're going to save you money up front. Secondly, they are double strength glass, which protects your home even better. And third, they've got a lifetime warranty covering all parts, glass breakage, and labor. So not only do they save you money up front by being less expensive, they save you money later on because you don't have to replace them. And they make your home more energy efficient because of that double strength glass. These are durable windows in over 72,000 homes in St. Louis already. So give my friends at Window World a call. You're going to be calling a local team in Earth City, 314-993-1800. Get that no obligation, no pressure in-home estimate. Once again, give them a call. Say you heard Mike talking about him on the radio, 314-993-1800.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
Sometimes you want to do something extra special for someone. Vincent's Jewelers can help you. Maybe you want to do something for yourself. Mark a date, something you accomplished. It doesn't have to be anything really expensive, but it has to mean something now and for the future. Vincent's, locally owned, just asked for the chance to work with you, as they have with me, on Olive, just east of 270. Every day, new specials at vincentsjewelers.com or Vincent's Facebook.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
What new chaos and crises did Joe Biden start over the weekend? We'll discuss at 425 with former U.S. Senator Jim Talent. Red State Headlines at 525 with Susie Moore.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL. Love the music you hear on the morning show? Check out Mike's morning music playlist at newstalkstl.com.
Now that she's back in the atmosphere with drops of Jupiter in her head.
I do like the music I'm hearing on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show. You're good at that, Stell.
A lot of people like it, which is why we have, Mike's Music.
That's right.
Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff.
So go check it out on the website.
Yeah, just go to our Facebook page.
Right.
And the website, etc., and you can see Mike's Music Playlist. I believe it's a name similar to that. And you can scroll down and you get all the songs that we play on every show, plus links to them so you can watch the videos if you'd like.
Oh,
ooh, nice.
What?
And over and over again. And over, again.
And over and over.
Isn't technology grand?
It's lovely.
It is. So, yeah, you are listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL. Susie Moore filling in for Mike today. And we are joined now by my RedState colleague, Joe Cunningham, who I was excited to talk to this morning because he is a Louisianian. And I think he might have some insight on our House Speaker and how things are going for him. Good morning, Joe. How are you?
Good morning. And first, let me say I, too, enjoy the music in the mornings. I enjoy being on with y'all, and I think that the song Drops of Jupiter was especially appropriate because I'm no longer convinced that Joe Biden is breathing the same air that we are. Very much living on an entirely different planet at this point.
You may be right on that, and maybe they're pumping him full of drops of Jupiter just to keep him with us.
It's got to be something.
It's something. You know, I mean, we joke about it, but I mean, the bottom line is this: everyone can see that he's every bit of his 81 years. He's an old 81. Let's say that.
Yes.
There are plenty of 81-year-olds who are much more lucid and vigorous than Joe appears to be. But he was clearly amped up, let's say, for the State of the Union address, and yet we see him, you know, in the following days giving different little speeches here and there, and it's a different thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know there was enough B12 in the universe, but clearly there was to make him just an old man yelling at clouds. Well, I say that. The State of the Union speech, and I wrote this at RedState the other day, the State of the Union speech, it wasn't for you and me. It wasn't for independents. It was for the Democrats. And he was basically saying, hey, look, you know, it's my party. It's my campaign. I'm running. Stop with the whispers of replacing me or who might be replacing me or a switch at the convention. It's me. I'm the one who's going to do the job for the next 4 years. And that's one of the reasons why the State of the Union address has been received kind of poorly in a lot of the info we've seen, a lot of the anecdotal info we've seen, kind of even some polling. I mean, it clearly wasn't a speech to bring everybody to his side. I mean, this is going to be a battle for who's going to win the dwindling independents. I don't mean they're dwindling like they're choosing a side. All the polling shows that independents don't want a rematch of 2020 in 2024. And so that's leading me to believe, like, this could be, you know, we had record high turnout in 2020. We could have the very opposite in 2024, a bunch of people who just stay home. So any independent support you can get, any of those Republicans who clearly didn't want Trump, who kept supporting the Nikki Haley. I mean, the State of the Union address was kind of Joe Biden's attempt to win them, and he was busy yelling at his own party.
Yeah.
Good morning, Joe. Gabe Pfeiffer here. So, given his performance, given the trepidation people have about his continued candidacy, what do you think his campaign would actually agree to a debate with Donald Trump in this election year?
Absolutely not. I think that they're going to have to run kind of a modified form of that basement campaign he ran in 2020. In 2020, he wasn't the incumbent. So he could get away with a basement campaign to hide his flaws. He has to get out there right now. We're seeing a lot of news organizations, even ones of the left, that are going out and they're talking to voters. And it's very clear that Joe Biden has to get out there and talk to voters and win voters back. But at the same time, I'm not sure he could do a long-form debate performance. One of the keys to that was the State of the Union address. You know, Marjorie Taylor Greene, for all of her perceived flaws and everything like that, she caused Joe Biden to stumble. She got him to bring up Laken Riley, mispronounce his name or her name, and really threw him off his game in that. And that was kind of the point where the train started to come off the trails a little bit in the State of the Union. If Marjorie Taylor Greene can do that, you know, and I know, Donald Trump is going to be doing that the entire time he's on a debate stage with Biden. The Biden campaign is not going to want that. they're going to try to push this narrative that, Trump's old and senile too, and he's losing his step. But Trump loses his step when he's publicly speaking, not on a teleprompter, not with note cards. Trump is just off the cuff, and so he's going to make some of these mistakes. Joe Biden cannot read from a note card without going off the trails. And the Biden campaign is not going to want to risk putting him on a stage with Donald Trump. It may be toward the end of the campaign, maybe some network lucks out and gets them both on there. I think that would be very compelling television for those of us who are political junkies, but that's probably what's going to get more independents to sit home than anything else, just watching those two guys debate. And it'd be Donald Trump doing nothing but trying to troll Joe Biden and throw him off, and Joe Biden just continuing to slip.
I think it's ironic, Joe. You mentioned that one of the key strategy moves from the Biden camp last week was to announce that they're going to try and throw Donald Trump off his game and needle him and get under his skin because they think that they can, basically provoke him and get him to say undisciplined things, which, that's not a terribly out there possibility. But it's kind of ironic because really they've got to worry about that themselves. You get Joe in a non-controlled environment and other variables being thrown at him, and he's not able to stay on script either.
I mean, we remember what happened in 2016 when a bunch of Republicans tried to throw Trump off their game and tried to attack him and needle him. That's the environment Trump thrives in.
It's true.
Trump reflects and turns it around. Trump doesn't have to answer a question if he's being needled. He's going to turn it around on whoever's throwing it at him. And he came through a very messy primary in 2016 on that, and he avoided it in 2020. But at the same time, he already had a huge chunk of the base. He hasn't had to debate anybody this time, but I can't imagine a scenario where Joe Biden is able to throw Donald Trump off his game. He wasn't even really able to throw him off his game in 2020. 2020, the debates didn't really matter all that much. People were negatively impacted by COVID. There was a lot of unhappiness. The coverage of Donald Trump was just so negative and so intense. A lot of voters were just turned off, and yet Donald Trump still picked up more votes than ever. It just so happened that Joe Biden was able to do the same. I think we've gotten to a point where we can pretty much say when it comes to messaging, when it comes to message discipline, that's not something you should expect from Donald Trump. And let's be honest, no, I don't think any of us really expect some sort of message discipline from Donald Trump himself. Now, his campaign has been doing a good job of it. In Georgia, they've been dropping ads, and allies have been dropping ads about Lake and Riley. That one issue may have just cost Joe Biden 16 electoral votes.
Yeah.
And the immigration issue is a pretty big issue. We see it in national polling. We see it in state-by-state polling. That is a big issue right now. It's big enough that MSNBC trolled Virginians about being worried about immigration. And I think when you're out there mocking voters in a state that in 2016 took way longer to decide than every Democrat expected, and that was the first warning sign for Hillary Clinton, if you're out there trolling Virginia, a state that flipped red before the midterm elections, I think you've got a problem that you really shouldn't be mocking the state for their worries.
No, I think you're right about that. Joe, I did want to ask you about this because one of the other outgrowths of the State of the Union address was the fact that Mike Johnson, who seems like such a mild-mannered Clark Kent kind of guy, and he remained mild-mannered. He didn't rip up the speech or anything like that, but his face throughout the speech.
Many people.
Was Insta-meme. It was so fun to watch it, and I think he's kind of had fun with it since then. But what was your take watching him react to the speech?
Mike Johnson represented a lot of Americans and not just Republicans sitting on that stage and just listening to Joe Biden. He was reacting not only to the talking points, but also just to the general demeanor of Joe Biden. When Joe Biden's voice would start to raise, because Joe Biden, whenever his voice would start to get louder, you knew he was about to make some partisan point that was meant to rally his party. You could already see Johnson start to make that face, and he was just kind of reacting to the whole spectacle of it. And I mean, we're a group of people. We're a society that we stop and we slow down for accidents on the side of the road. When we see a train wreck, we have to rubberneck, and that's what Mike Johnson was. He just happened to be sitting where cameras were pointing at him the entire time, kind of having to watch this train wreck too. I know a lot of conservatives, because of the spending and everything, a lot of conservatives are really upset at Mike Johnson. I have long adored the man as a politician. He has always been such a solid conservative, and he's in an impossible situation. And I think, when he stood up and he applauded for supporting Ukraine, that rubbed some conservatives the wrong way. But, his face the entire night, I think he really won a lot of conservatives back just by being as floored by some of the things that Joe Biden was saying that we were.
No, I think you're right about that. And I'm with you about that. I want to give Mike Johnson a chance. I know he's got some difficult roads to navigate, and I'd like to see him be successful at that. But yeah, to me, it was endearing watching him kind of wade his way through that. Well, Joe, appreciate you joining us this morning here on News Talk STL. Where can folks find your work and find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at Joe P. Cunningham. That's where I'm most active on social media. You can find my writing, of course, with you over at RedState. RedState.com. You can see all of our writings there, all the great writers we have. If you're looking for me specifically, there's an author tab. You can find me and find the stuff I've written there. And just really anywhere on the internet you search for Joe P. Cunningham, you're going to find me.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning, Joe. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks. Y'all have a great one.
Thanks. You too. All right, folks. We're going to take a little break here, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about what the heck's going on in Haiti.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah,
not good.
Even worse than usual.
Yeah. So you are listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
She's back in the atmosphere with drops of Jupiter in her head.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com.
It's like summer and walks like rain, reminds me that there's a time to change.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Since the return of her stay on the moon, she listens like spring and she talks like June. Well, tell me, did you sail across the sun? Did you make it to the Milky Way to see the lights all faded and that heaven is overrated? Tell me, did you fall for a shooting star? One without a permanent scar, and then you missed me while you were looking for yourself out there.
Rhino Shield is far superior to even the best traditional exterior house paint. Rhino Shield is 8 to 10 times thicker than paint and comes with a 25-year transferable warranty. Rhino Shield is the only ceramic coating company that has been chosen by Disney, This Old House, and 3 times on HGTV's Curb Appeal, where every episode is concentrated on unpainted brick, bonds and seals to stucco, wood, hardy, block, color lock, masonite, and more. No better product for those steel aluminum-sided homes that have become, chalky and tired looking. We coat sloped and flat roofs to extend their lives too. After 15 years, we've got a great reputation and a superior product. As long as it's affordable, why wouldn't you do it? Before you make the costly mistake of painting with traditional paint, you'd be best served to call Rhino Shield today. We are the experts and our evaluations are free. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. Tell them, ladies.
No paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
It's America's worst crisis in history, caused by the Biden-Harris woke madness. Lawless borders, drug cartels freely enter, human sex trafficking. They allowed it, and it must stop. Mike Bost is our proven conservative with the backbone to finish President Trump's border wall, a patriot with the experience to move the America First agenda forward. And President Trump endorses Mike Bost.
Congressman Mike Bost fights every day for the hard-working people of Illinois. They vote for Mike is really a continuation to make America great again. If you want to stand up for American jobs, factories, and workers, you must vote for Mike Bost. Mike Bost is going to win big.
I'm Mike Bost, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Bost for Congress.
Hey, it's Tony Colombo for the cleaning pros at Zero Res. It's time for spring cleaning, and there's no one that can help you with that more than the team at Zero Res, especially with this great offer. Book a cleaning in March, mention the Colombo special, and you'll get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned starting at just $119. Plus, you can take $50 off your air duct cleaning and 20% off your upholstery, which is a service we've used many times. Just mention the Colombo special when you call 314-474-2020 or book online at ZeroResSTL.com.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at Stifel.com. That's Stifel.com.
Hey there, Tim Jones here. Make sure you join me and my buddy Chris Arps this afternoon from 4 until 6 p.m. right here on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. Right now, let's get back to more of Mike Ferguson in the Morning.
What movie is this from?
I don't remember this one.
I believe it's from Pretty Woman.
Oh, is it?
I'm pretty sure. I don't. I'm gonna have to check that though.
Yeah, maybe.
Good stuff. Either way, it's good stuff. Welcome back, folks. You're listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show and Susie's little hummings and musings about music. In the meantime, Susie Moore filling in for Mike today. One of the things I want to talk about is, I feel like anytime we hear news out of Haiti, it's not good.
Yeah.
There's, a natural disaster of some sort, or there's unrest, or
some sort of humanitarian
immigrants trying to
crisis.
come across our southern border.
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's never good. And there are theories about that I won't get into. There's some spiritual things at work that some people maintain or are in play here. But bottom line is this: the poor people in Haiti can't catch a break. And over the weekend, I saw, this caught my attention. I actually wrote up a story on it because the U.S. evacuated its embassy because roving gangs are taking over the island nation.
That's kind of a big deal.
It's kind of a big deal.
When the U.S. evacuates an embassy.
Yeah. Now, I've lost track of how many embassies we've had to evacuate under the tenure of Joe Biden. This I will not lay directly at his feet. When it first caught my attention was there was the standard engagement farmers, the click farmers on Twitter were all talking. They were sharing a video of people, running. It was like gang violence type thing going on in Haiti, and they were talking about gangs turning to cannibalism.
Yes, I saw that cannibal gangs roving the streets headline on a few social media posts, and I was like, "Excuse me, what?"
Yeah, so I'm like, I need to dig a little further here. Now, I can't rule it out, but I will say that is not included in the reliable news reports.
Okay.
The mainstream news that is reporting on this is talking about there's no question there's unrest, there's violence. It's kind of, falling apart. The prime minister can't go back to the country. He left to go to Kenya. They were trying to put together this group that was going to try and help kind of address some of the issues that they're having. And he can't fly back in because the Dominican, which shares the island, by the way, with Haiti.
Like right down the middle.
But really likes the fact that there's a big mountain range in the middle of it, separating them.
Yes.
They said, no, you can't fly back in here. It's too unsafe. They don't want him. So he's stuck. I think he's in Puerto Rico at this point.
That's crazy.
So the prime minister is not there. We're evacuating our embassy. The gangs have overrun the prisons. There were some people that chose to stay in prison because they thought they were going to be safer there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it's crazy. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't think Bill and Hillary Clinton are the answer.
Oh gosh, no.
But I don't know. I see stuff like this and I think, what?
Well, that split between Dominican and Haiti reminds me of the North and South Korea split. Like if you ever see it at night, you ever see, some of the even actually during the day, one side is greener than the other.
Right.
It's kind of amazing, and I look at those things, and a lot of times it's very much a testament to the differences that governance can make.
Yes.
You know what I mean? There's the choices that your governing authorities make, and therefore, and in large part, obviously, the culture that brings about that government also has a lot to do with why these nations are the way that they are.
But it isn't interesting though when you think about it, because the two nations literally they share an island.
Yeah, they share space. Yeah, and it's an island.
It's an island. It's not a huge amount of space.
Right.
And yet the cultures are different.
Mhm.
The governments are different. Everything seems to be different.
You can vacation in DR.
You can. people regularly go to the Dominican. You don't vacation in Haiti.
No, the prime minister can't even go back.
Right. He can't go back. If you go to the State Department, it says don't go there. That's
Right.
literally like what it says.
Yeah,
It's like,
stop.
I mean, I might be paraphrasing, but it's
Yeah.
do not travel is basically what it says.
Right.
So I don't know when they evacuate the embassy, like where do they go with the staff? I don't know.
How do you fix a place like Haiti?
I don't know.
And that's the other aspect of it, because we're getting there. Some of our city centers are looking a little bit like Haiti.
Scary stuff. Well, we're going to take a little news break and be back at the top of the hour here on Mike Ferguson, the morning show on News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
By the way, Susie, you were right. It's Pretty Woman for the Roxette song.
Mike Ferguson here. Retirement should be a time you can relax. No more stress from work. But there's one thing you can't forget about when retiring. That's your money. Do you have enough saved to fund your income for life and keep up with inflation? How will you claim your Social Security benefits? And what about long-term care? The ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel is here to help answer all of these questions. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9, right here on News Talk STL. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas & Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Hey, I'd like you to get to know Dr. Daniel Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer. Those are dentists and my dental team, along with their dental team at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles. You know, whether it's economic value with their dental savings plan and their real concern about giving you value, which is, of course, quality at a great price, or whether it's their personal values, their dedication to absolute precision. I can tell you when I go in and get my treatment there, or just a cleaning, whatever, it's always, I get this feeling it's like laser guided precision. Well, yeah, they have lasers, but they don't do that for everything, of course. It's the right tool for the right job. Whether it is dental implants, whether it's just general dentistry, cosmetic dentistry, and by the way, he can use some Botox in all the right ways for those applications as well. You'll find the greatest of care, the greatest value, delivered with people who have real values, the values we share at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles. Get to know them by calling 636-978-0226, 636-978-0226, or advanceddentistrynow.com. That's Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles.
KLDY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019 94.1 and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. A terrorist kingpin, the leader of Al-Qaeda in Yemen, is dead. Although there are many more questions and answers regarding the death of the man who was worth millions to the U.S. government.
The militant group released a video of the body of Khalid al-Batarfi wrapped in a white funeral shroud and al-Qaeda's black and white flag. There was no clear sign of trauma visible on his face. Al-Batarfi was believed to be in his early 40s. The U.S. government had placed a $5 million bounty on al-Batarfi's head for leading al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, which had long been considered the most dangerous branch of the extremist group, still operating after the U.S. killing of founder Osama bin Laden, but it's believed to have been weakened in recent years because of infighting. I'm Donna Warder.
Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu standing tough in the face of another admonition from President Biden, who says that Israel should, quote, pay more attention to the innocent lives being lost in the Gaza war. And he suggests that Netanyahu's prosecution of the war may be doing Israel harm. Netanyahu bristles at that suggestion, adding that Israel has gone out of its way to minimize civilian casualties. Charleston, South Carolina, recovering from record rainfall, flooding rains on Saturday.
That record amount was 3.63 inches. That's a calendar day, and that beat the old record of 1.43 set in 1948. So it was substantially
substantially, a pretty substantial record.
Brian Adams at the National Weather Service. Number of high water rescues, at least a dozen cases of people getting trapped in their vehicles by floodwaters and having to be rescued. On Wall Street this morning, the Dow futures down 118 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
Psst. Hey, Mark, remember, getting help from Progressive is so easy. You can use the mobile app, chat with us online, or call us.
And you pick now to tell me.
I couldn't miss Little Grace's ballet recital. Oh, thanks for inviting me, by the way.
Did I?
Because, I'm always here for you.
Yeah. I can use the mobile app if I need help. Sorry, you're in my wife's seat, though?
Oh, yeah, I gotta go anyway. Tell Grace she nailed her chassé.
Get the help you need from Progressive with our mobile app, online chat, or over the phone.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Sunshine and a warm southerly flow team up for some beautiful weather today and Tuesday. Winds out of the south and southwest at 5 to 15 miles per hour today. Looking at afternoon highs from around 70 to 73 degrees. Tonight, clear, mild, down to 47 for the early morning low. Tuesday, sunshiny in the morning, partly cloudy in the afternoon, but even warmer, up to 75 tomorrow afternoon. Looks a little unsettled for the second half of the week with on and off rain and some thunderstorms. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Here's a great way to save money on your prescription medications. If you take Viagra or Cialis, we can give you a way to pay as little as $2 a pill. Compare that to prices as high as $60 per tablet. These pills work for men and women to improve their sexual performance. And now for the price of 2 or 3 pills, you can get nearly 100. There's no need to pay expensive prices for Viagra or Cialis. Call now with your prescription and pay as little as $2 a pill. We offer 24/7 service and always free delivery and confidential packaging. Change your life for the better and have fun. Call Pharmacy Shop 24/7 to get generic versions of Viagra or Cialis for as little as $2 a pill, plus free discreet shipping.
800-631-2030. 800-631-2030. 800-631-2030. That's 800-631-2030.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com. Mike Ferguson.
You play ball like a girl.
Gabe Pfeiffer.
I triple dog dare you.
Get up, can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice, drain the swamp, and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the Morning on News Talk STL.
Get up, this is your cousin
I was ready this time. I had my Kofifi substitute. My Coke Zero was ready to go.
Yeah.
Welcome back, folks. You are listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL. Susie Moore filling in for Mike today, here with Gabe Pfeiffer and Stell Ponticus. And as I mentioned, we've got so much stuff to cover. We've talked about this before. There is no such thing as a slow news day.
Not anymore.
No. And as you know, as an editor over at RedState, I mean, I know that firsthand because we're constantly turning out. We've got a volume of stories now that's double what it used to be, just because there's so much stuff to cover and we can't get everything. And then maybe people going, "Why didn't you talk about this? Why did you?" It's like, look, there's only so many of us. There's only so much we can do. But there's never a dull moment. And of course, you know, we live in crazy political times. So, you know, Joe Biden is the gift that keeps giving as far as having something to cover and talk about.
He's a lol cow.
Yeah, well, in different he is. In contrast to Donald Trump, both of them are like just endless supplies of stories and things to talk about. But one of the things that came out of the State of the Union address, which was only 3 or 4 days ago, and I'm sure other people picked up on this too. A couple of times, Biden got ranty about billionaires and people paying their fair share and paying their taxes. He's hitting the podium, he's emphasizing it, and I'm screaming at the screen and typing in this furiously, like, what about your own damn kids?
Right? Exactly.
Because they're both in trouble for tax evasion.
Yes, seriously, it's kind of hilarious. And don't even get me started on the tax evasion system that is his artwork.
Right. So Hunter Biden is literally being prosecuted federally for tax evasion, and that has led to a whole host of other issues for him, because the smartest guy Joe Biden knows couldn't figure out that if he tried to write off, hookers and blow as a business expense, someone was going to call him on it at some point.
Yeah.
And I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
He literally wrote off a membership to a sex club as a business expense.
Yes, he did. And Joe Biden still called him the smartest guy I know.
Which, I'm just saying.
Just saying.
So the other aspect of that was a little frustrating and maddening is it's misrepresentative, because him saying billionaires don't pay the same as, school teachers or firefighters, that's a misnomer. It's misleading.
Yes.
And I mean, it sounds appealing. Everyone kind of gets juiced up about class warfare, and when you're not one of those billionaires, you're like, yeah,
get them.
But it overlooks a couple of important things, and one of them is that, and I'm going to trust that this statistic is correct. This is the guy. This is Gary Cohn, who is the IBM vice chair and former Trump economic advisor. So he says he notes that if you actually look at who pays taxes in this country, the bottom 50% of earners in the United States pay 2.3% of the tax collected.
Yeah.
The top 10% pay over 70% of the tax collected.
Yes, that is true. And I can tell you the source for that because I looked it up. That's the IRS.
Okay.
The IRS tells us.
So that's yeah. So we can expect that those numbers are accurate. Now, I understand that, it makes sense that people who have more will pay more. Duh.
Yes.
But the other thing that this claim of Joe Biden's doesn't take into account is the fact someone's a millionaire or a billionaire. That's how they're assessed based on their wealth.
Right. The difference between wealth and income.
Their income.
Those are different things.
We have an income tax. Thank you, 16th Amendment. Boo. We do have an income tax. That is now constitutional because it's part of the Constitution. We do not have a wealth tax.
Right. Not yet, Elizabeth Warren.
Right. I'm sure, I was just going to say, I'm sure Liz Warren and Bernie Sanders would love to see us have a wealth tax, but we don't have that. And the only way we're going to have that is another constitutional amendment, because the way it's set up, you can't just
tax anything.
Well, you're not supposed to.
They'll find a way.
Right. So if someone's a quote unquote billionaire, I mean, that may mean that they have $1 billion of assets and holding, but they're only taxed and only supposed to be taxed on their income.
Right. Yeah. There's a significant difference between the way the wealthy deals with money and the way the rest of us deal with money.
Absolutely.
And I've studied this because, in my attempts to become the rich, I study how the rich operate.
Yeah.
And one of the big differences is the rich hold their wealth in something other than their house, which is where the rest of us have. If you want to look at the regular middle class, our assets are pretty much just tied in equity in our house, which is essentially inaccessible for the most part, unless you want to sell or get an equity loan or something like that. But what the wealthy do is they invest in businesses. So their equity is usually held, in addition to real estate, not just, residential, primary residence real estate, in other residential real estate holdings, be it commercial or residential, and in businesses themselves, either in stocks, bonds, or a controlling interest in a private business.
Right.
So the thing is, when you calculate the net worth of an individual by wealth, you're saying, okay, well, here is how much they owe, and here is how much the value of the other stuff that they own is.
Right.
But it's not as though they have that in the bank.
Right.
When we say Elon Musk is a billionaire, we don't say he has $1 billion in the bank that he could go and take out from an ATM.
Right.
It's held in stock. It's held mostly for especially these huge entrepreneurs who have these gigantic companies. It's mostly just stock in their own company.
Right.
And if they try to liquidate it, they would reduce their own wealth immediately because everybody would see the sell-off as a signal of bad things happening, and the value would go down.
It's true. It's true. Well, and we're seeing that firsthand with Donald Trump, with all of the legal woes that he's facing and the verdicts and judgments against him. And we're talking about, the fact that even Donald Trump, who is obviously very wealthy, is, struggling financially in the sense that he's got to come up in some way with the money to secure these judgments that he's appealing and pay his lawyers, all those sorts of things. So, for instance, the verdict, the E. Jean Carroll verdict, the defamation suit, she got the second case that was tried, which actually involved the first allegation of defamation on his part, went to verdict in January, and he was tagged with like $83 million.
Yeah.
So, of course, they're going to appeal that verdict. But in order to do so, they have to post a bond.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to say, can we post a bond that's for, a portion of that? The judge said no.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to, by today, post an $83 million plus interest bond in order to be able to proceed with their appeal.
Wow.
Which they did. They did it on Friday. They did it
Oh,
early,
my
by
gosh.
the way. And it was like a $91 million bond, basically, because that's supposed to cover not only the actual judgment, but the interest, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, in order to secure that, now he didn't have to take $91 million out of his pocket and place it on the table, but he had to work with an insurer
Mm-hmm.
to secure that. So he's got some, assets and collateral that are being held against that in order to secure that bond. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
Okay. So, point being, when he's being forced to theoretically liquidate things and make his wealth work for him and actually pay these bills, you realize it's not like he's just got the money like Scrooge McDuck sitting there in the little vault.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. So yeah, this is one of the little sleight of hands that the progressives and the Democrats tend to do when it comes to taxation.
Yeah.
And if you think that people should be taxed on their wealth, well, you can advocate for that. I'm going to tell you to go pound sand, but that is different than income.
Yes. So how would you like to be taxed on the equity in your house?
Yeah.
Think about it that way.
Or unrealized capital gains.
Unrealized capital gains. I have stock in Amazon that's worth this much. I'm going to pay some measure of difference between what I paid originally and what it currently is, and then the stock goes down. Do I get my money back? No.
Right. Yeah. So I think people need to think that through. And that's not the only issue in which Joe Biden lied or misled.
If I can toss in just for a second, there's another aspect for the financially wealthy, and that's investments overseas. They can put stuff into areas overseas where you have a hard time finding out where that money is stored, whether it's in Caribbean nations, Switzerland, etc.
Right. Well, and so there's something to be said for whether there are loopholes that perhaps should be tightened up and not allow for that. And I'm not advocating that people do something that's shady, but if they're following the law and if they are lawfully investing in other places in ways that are a tax benefit to them, why wouldn't they? That's the smart thing to do.
That is.
You want to protect your assets and your holdings. So I don't know.
The other thing is Biden's statement about school teachers and firefighters, their payment. I'm sure some folks saw this over the last few days. There were maybe 25 to 30 statements in his speech for the State of the Union address that are repeats of items that he mentioned.
Oh, his previous State of the Union.
In his previous State of the Union addresses, of which that was one.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah. Well, the other thing that he did that was a lie, when he was talking about his favorite pet cause now, shrinkflation, which, he's trying to blame the big bad corporations and, the potato chip manufacturers for people's discord and
too much air in the bags.
Right, with the economy, when it's the inflation that his policies have promoted and made exponential that is causing some of these companies to adjust to that by reducing the size of their product so that they can not raise their prices, but, still continue to make a profit. So one of the companies that he invoked, by name, was Snickers.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He specifically said, Snickers bars, you get charged the same amount and you got about, 10% fewer Snickers in it, which...
Did he really say that?
Yeah, he did.
Yes.
I missed that.
It's called nuts and caramel.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what he thinks a Snicker is. I'm afraid to ask. But that's Joe for you.
Oh, my gosh, Joe.
So not only did he invoke their name and accuse them of shrinkflation and not having as many Snickers in their Snickers... But he's wrong.
He's also wrong.
The company struck back. They said, We have not reduced the size of Snickers singles or share size in the U.S. Like many industries, we continue to face high inflation and spikes in material costs. However, we work to absorb these extra costs wherever possible to provide affordable treats and the best value. Final prices are always at the discretion of the retailer, but we make every effort to minimize costs to provide a full range of delicious products.
Now, they have changed the size of their bars since we were kids.
Yes.
But maybe that's what Joe was thinking about, because, you lose time at certain advanced ages.
Well,
and
that's true.
Your ability to perceive things kind of changes. And when was the last time you think Joe actually bought a Snickers bar?
I don't know. I mean, we've seen him quote unquote buy. I got air quotes, sneer quotes here going ice cream.
Yeah.
But like for the staged ops, and even that shows the inflation. But well, here's the thing. I don't know when Snickers was invented, but I want to say Joe is probably older than Snickers.
Oh gosh,
to begin with.
probably.
But you have a fair point there. Maybe he's hearkening back to his youth or sometime and thinking about the good old days of Snickers and but now there's fewer Snickers in the Snickers. So according to Joe, but he's wrong.
Fewer Snickers in the Snickers. He's such an embarrassment.
That's Joe for you. We've got more to talk about involving Joe and others when you come back here on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show on News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
Don't try to make me stop. No inspiration. You have a soul so dark it is no more.
We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I see your indifference. Stop it right now before you blow us all away. You wanna do that? Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up, this is your cousin God.
Columbo and Katie.
Joe Scarborough seems to be the only one on the planet still rooting for President Biden. And he says F you to his critics if they can't handle the truth. We'll talk to Virginia Crude about this on Monday.
Weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL.
Hi, it's Susie Moore. Come join me Friday, March 15th in beautiful Washington, Missouri. I'm the keynote speaker for Franklin County's annual Lincoln Reagan Banquet. Hear from your Republican candidates running for national and statewide office, dinner, raffles, and most important, support the Franklin County GOP. Just go to fcrcc.org for tickets. fcrcc.org. And I'll see you at the Franklin County Lincoln Reagan Dinner. That's fcrcc.org for tickets. That's fcrcc.org for tickets.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss as part of our lineup every week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 3 times every weekend on News Talk STL. And in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
Thanks for taking my call.
News, analysis, opinion.
Radio news junkie. Love every bit about it.
News Talk STL.
Hey, this is Rob Carter. Join me weeknights at 8 p.m. as I challenge our politicians, expose the political press, and analyze pop culture. It's the Rob Carter Show weeknights from 8 to 10 p.m. here on News Talk STL. Now let's get back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Am I going a little too far back for you?
No.
Here, Susie? Okay.
I'm dancing to the music.
'Cause this is high school for me. Late 60s, Sly and the Family Stone.
Yeah, technically it might be before my time, but it doesn't mean not familiar with it and don't appreciate it.
It's a classic.
It is a classic. Good stuff. Good music. Back when music was good. I'm going to be like Joe Biden and harken back to the good old days when Snickers had Snickers.
It had more Snickers in it.
And music had more music.
And music had more music in it. In case anyone was wondering, on the break, Gabe did look this up. Snickers came to be in when
1930.
So
Yes, Mars introduced Snickers in 1930.
It does predate Joe Biden.
Just barely.
Yeah, just barely. Yeah.
I believe he was born in 1942.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Right. Well, okay. We've probably talked about this before. When he was inaugurated, there was more time between his birth and the date of his inauguration than there was between his birth and Abraham Lincoln's inauguration.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh, like, boy. Think about that.
Oh my gosh. See, I kind of love and hate those little time things that kind of make your brain go a little wobbly sometimes. It's like, hey, do you know that the distance in time between this date and this date is less than between this date? Whoa.
Right.
Excuse me, what?
And it was close, and I think we're talking about the second inauguration for Lincoln. So he would have been the second time would have been in 1865. So if you think about that, that's 35 years to the turn of the century plus 42 years to Joe. So that's what, 77? And Joe was inaugurated after he was 77. So he was, there's actually that much. Like, that is mind-boggling.
Yes, all of this stuff.
Yeah. Well, so is a lot of what Joe says and does.
Mind-boggling, yes.
So, for instance, we talked about this on Friday about the fact that he, when he was, I don't know that he was going to, of his own accord, mention Lake and Riley, but I think they were prepped for Marjorie Taylor Greene to have an outburst and kind of try and force his hand on the issue, which is a serious issue. And, you know, whatever your politics are at all, the fact that this young woman was, you know, out for a jog and was brutally murdered and appears to have been at the hand of someone who was here illegally, it's so maddening. And it just seems also like it could have been prevented and it didn't have to happen this way. So I understand why people are this has kind of been like a lightning rod for people. So yeah, he was primed for her to kind of provoke him on that, and he held up the button with her name that Marjorie Taylor Greene had given him, I guess.
It's actually kind of a little political coup there that just happened. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like you hand something to the president and he holds it up.
He holds it up.
That's kind of amazing.
But even then, he didn't get it right, because as we talked about, instead of saying Lake and Riley, he said Lincoln Riley, who's like a coach out in California.
Yeah, USC coach.
Yes, which, by the way, there was some, dark humor, but there was some memes about, everyone like giving their condolences to R.I.P. Lincoln Riley.
Yeah. Well, and that's a testament to the fact that we all heard the same thing.
Oh yeah.
Regardless of what the MSM is trying to push, that it's like, oh, he appeared to mispronounce, but I'm sure it wasn't.
Everyone heard that.
Yeah, everybody heard it.
That was unmistakable.
Google tells me that everybody heard it.
Now, I don't know if he was familiar with Lincoln Riley's name either, or if he was just thinking about the fact that he was closer in time to Lincoln's inauguration too. Then who knows? Bottom line is, not only did he mispronounce her name, but then he really stepped in it. Because you know what he said?
What?
He said she was murdered by an illegal.
Yes, that's right. He actually said it. Because it's true.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it had been true for most of Joe's tenure that the government referred to them as illegal aliens. Yes.
Right. So he said, and
he went back.
The point that he was, the win that he was trying to get there was to saying that for the fact that while her death was allegedly at the hand of an illegal, how many thousands of people are killed every year by quote unquote legals, which it didn't land because people couldn't understand what he was saying.
No.
But here's where he really stepped in it, because he had the audacity to use the word that his own government has been using for years to identify people legally. No pun intended. Now he's catching hell from the left because he used the term illegal.
People aren't illegal, Susie.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
whatever.
When he was first asked about it the next day on the tarmac, he was like, oh, well, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have said that, but he wasn't supposed to be here. Which in itself was an admission. Like, oh, really, Joe? Are you saying there are people in this country that aren't supposed to be here?
Yeah.
You mean they aren't all supposed to be here? Because you've pretty much rolled out the red carpet and asked them to come.
It's kind of amazing because I think it was your job to make sure that they're not.
Yeah.
Like
I read that somewhere.
Yeah, read this somewhere, yeah.
Yeah.
It's an old document somewhere nearby.
So he finally goes on MSNBC And he says, I shouldn't have used illegal. It's undocumented. So here's Grandpa getting corrected on his political correctness and, use of terminology. I was thinking about this in the terms, and there was the replay this morning about your all's discussion about Corey Stark and the colored people comment, the colored homeowners. Comment.
Yes. Colored homeowners.
Yeah. And, I hadn't heard about that, but when I was listening to it, I'm like, okay, I see how that happens when he's reading the teleprompter, and that's what it says. Whoever made that decision, I'm sure had a stern talking to. But the bottom line is, like, that seems like something you could see Joe saying, because that was the old vernacular, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But illegal isn't even that old.
No, it's still on the books.
Right.
Actually,
it's still on the books, and it's technically correct. I guess I'll say this: at least he didn't call him a newcomer.
That's true. Mm-hmm. Well, that hadn't sunk in yet. You have to teach these things over and over and over again.
Right.
But yeah, it's amazing though that while he doesn't really know the name of Laken Riley, he hasn't acknowledged the family that is still mourning Laken Riley, but he wants to apologize essentially to her murderer.
Yes.
That's basically what we're looking at right now.
And the progressive left and the left-leaning media are all over him for that. They are more outraged, more upset with him for using a term that is still proper and still on the books to describe the man who's accused of killing her than over the fact that she's dead.
Yes, that's clearly these are these instances that always remind me that they are actually the bad guys. And I'm not talking about your run-of-the-mill liberal who happens to vote Democrat. I'm not talking about the people who are well-intentioned and they really just care about people and they have good things in their hearts. I'm talking about the leftists, and I'm talking about these government officials who use the Democrat moniker and who leverage all of these good impulses of liberals for power. They're actually villains. They're villains who exist in our country and in our government, because only a villain would look at the situation this way and say the bigger offense is that you mislabeled the illegal immigrant.
Right. I guess it could have been worse if you'd misgendered him too.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And he needs to be put in a women's prison.
You're right. It's the people that are driving the narrative that are I think it's fair to say that they are not acting in good faith.
That's a very, very mild way of putting it. That's a very Susie way of putting things.
I really try hard not to.
But this is the Gabe way of putting things. They evil.
I really try hard to direct it to the actions, the behavior, not the person themselves.
Yeah, I know. I agree. That's the best policy especially in sort of political disagreements. You give the benefit of the doubt. You assume good faith and all these other things because you can't have conversations with people otherwise. But at some point, I get so tired of seeing the same thing over and over again. It's like the same people who said maybe the 9/11 terrorists had a point. Maybe Hamas maybe Israel needs to stop genociding Hamas. All these people, the same people who say all that garbage, are there's been a sort of unbroken track since my introduction into politics back in 2001. Yeah, no, they're evil. Man. They're evil to me.
You know what, Gabe? I know how much you love Venn diagrams. I'm surprised Kamala hasn't come up with a Venn diagram that has illegal, undocumented, and asylum on the outside, and then the middle one says newcomer.
Yeah.
That would just be a circle, still.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that's a full...
That's just a circle.
That's a circle.
Yeah.
I'm old enough that I remember one of the big hit songs of the 80s. Was Phil Collins.
Yeah.
It's no fun being an illegal alien.
Oh, that's right. He did have a little tune, little ditty.
I mean, that was a big hit. And no one was offended by that. And I mean, he had a point. I mean, if you're someplace where you're not supposed to be, you're kind of on the run. You're living in the shadows.
Essentially
you're
a fugitive from government.
Right, exactly. So, and I don't know, little sidebar here. For whatever reason, my 15-year-old brain, 16-year-old brain, we changed that to, it's no fun being a McChicken on a bun. Don't know why.
I don't know why, but that's fun.
You know what? When we come back, we're going to talk about some interesting stuff here, including whistleblowers and why they need protections. You're listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on Newstalk STL 101.9 94.1.
give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson in the morning. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Sunshine and a warm southerly flow team up for some beautiful weather today and Tuesday. Winds out of the south and southwest at 5 to 15 miles per hour today. Looking at afternoon highs from around 70 to 73 degrees. Tonight, clear, mild, down to 47 for the early morning low. Tuesday, sunshiny in the morning, partly cloudy in the afternoon, but even warmer, up to 75 tomorrow afternoon. Looks a little unsettled for the second half of the week with on and off rain and some thunderstorms. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Hey guys, Ken Kruger. I've gotten to know these guys really well over the last few years. Yes, St. Louis Bath and Renovation. They're the most trusted name in bathroom remodelers in the St. Louis area. In fact, if you need bathroom repairs, complete bathroom remodeling, or handyman services, call St. Louis Bath and Renovation at 314-477-6476 or email Rob at stlbr.com. That's St. Louis Bath and Renovation.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
What's wrong, Bonchie? You can't get a full night's sleep. You wake up, you have to go to the bathroom, you barely get back to sleep, you got to wake up and do it again. That leaves you tired the next day. Well, some scientists have spent a lot of money and a lot of time to find out why you wake up in the middle of the night repeatedly. They're finding if you wake at least twice a night to go to the bathroom, it's because, don't jump ahead of me. It's because they say you watch too much TV or online movies or stuff like that during the day. During the day, not the night. That probably doesn't help, but they're saying specifically during the day. They say even without television's a factor. Of course, depending on your age, you might be getting up more often. In fact, at least half adults over the age of 50 and at least 1 in 3 over the age of 30 have to get up. And, of course, if you're on some medications, certain medications might cause you to get up. But the bottom line finding is you're spending too much time watching TV and stuff like that, and that makes you get up in the middle of the night. Did that help you, Bonchie? And you thought, and I thought, is simply because, I just drank too much water before bedtime.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Pigeons, they are everywhere, and they're very good at dive bombing freshly washed cars. Wellington Environmental reminds you those droppings are more than a nuisance. They can be a major health issue, especially massive droppings on buildings or in parking garages. So who do you call to safely clean it up? You do what many hospitals, universities, public buildings already do. You call Wellington Environmental. Wellington Environmental has been dealing with all kinds of hazards for 35 years. Special people, special skills, special equipment. Wellington gets it done. So to avoid health issues ranging from pigeon droppings to mold to chemical leaks, contact Wellington. 314-644-4930. 644-4930. WellingtonSTL.com. Wellington Environmental. Your world cleaner, better, safer. Be well with Wellington.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with this free call. 800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. That's 800-524-1641.
Listen anytime.
It happens
Anywhere.
anywhere.
Everywhere.
Every day continues to bring more news.
With the News Talk STL app. Keep St. Louis's home for conservative talk with you wherever you go. Download the News Talk STL app in the App Store or at newstalkstl.com.
Bill O'Reilly here. Check out the O'Reilly Update this afternoon at 3:45. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
I want a new drug. One that won't make me sick. One that won't make me crash my car and make me feel 3 feet thick.
So is this Hunter's song or
Oh,
Joe's?
there were so many thoughts going through my mind.
I know. I'm like, should I say it? I really shouldn't say it. We've got a guest. I've got to behave myself, but I just couldn't resist. I'm sorry. Welcome back, folks. You're listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show. Susie Moore filling in for Mike today here with Gabe Pfeiffer and Stella Ponticus. And pleased and privileged to be joined now by Tristan Leavitt, who's going to talk to us a little bit about what it's like to be a whistleblower, representing whistleblowers in the U.S. government. Tristan, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about this. I think the first time I became familiar with you was actually when you were testifying before Congress last year. I'm sure that's the case for many people. But until that moment, I hadn't really thought about the fact that people that are trying to navigate the very draconian whistleblower system in our government, they need representation. They need people that are there to actually assist them with that process. And that is what your current role is as the president of Empower. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. We do some other work as well, to some FOIA requests and other things, just to bring transparency into government. But the biggest service we're able to offer in many ways is representing whistleblowers.
Great. How did you come to that role?
So the real backstory, going back in time, is that the person who started Empower, my partner Jason Foster, he actually hired me to work for Senator Grassley on the Senate Judiciary Committee in 2011. And so I started right as this ATF agent named John Dodson was coming forward to tell us in Senator Grassley's office what sounded somewhat unbelievable, but that ATF was allowing firearms to be trafficked to Mexican drug cartels, and that a U.S. Border Patrol agent, Brian Terry, had died because of that. And so my first 2 years as a baby lawyer were investigating Operation Fast and Furious.
Wow.
And, and I was just so impressed with John, with Pete Furselli, another special agent of ATF I've stayed in close touch with. These guys just really put their careers on the line. And as John has said, he at times feared that he might be putting his life on the line. People were very upset with him. And so ever since that kind of became, I was so impressed with them, I just really focused on learning all the whistleblower protections, and that really became my focus on Capitol Hill. So after doing the Clinton email investigation for House Oversight, I led a couple of agencies that deal specifically with whistleblower protection during the Trump administration, one called the Office of Special Counsel, and then one which is kind of the quasi-judicial agency they appeal to, called the Merit Systems Protection Board. And so that's really the route for whistleblowers to go if they want protection. And after that, President Biden actually nominated me as the Republican. I'd been the acting head of the agency for several years, but President Biden nominated me as the Republican on the Merit Systems Protection Board. And so I did that for a year before leaving to become the president of Empower, and then having a different relationship with the Biden family at that point.
Changed a little bit then.
Good morning, Tristan. Gabe Pfeiffer here. So tell us about what it's like to testify before Congress. You've done this a couple times, I imagine.
Yeah, I've done it several times. I'll tell you, it's a lot easier having been on the other side in organized hearings.
Mm-hmm.
So, hearings are interesting things because members only have 5 minutes, which really is not that much time to dig into any particular topic. So you want to be able to just give the information as concisely as you can, right? And, again, having staffed those, it's not magic. It's not rocket science. Members are trying to get information, and so sometimes some questions are better worded than others. But so you just want to be as forthcoming as you can, and so I've always found it to be a rewarding experience.
Tristan, I know when you were before Congress, at least I think the most recent time. Was that with Steve Friend and Marcus Allen and
Yeah, and Garrett O'Boyle.
Garrett O'Boyle? Yeah, so those were the FBI whistleblowers. Tell our audience a little bit about the background of how that hearing came to be and what was at issue there.
Yeah, so this hearing was before the weaponization subcommittee of House Judiciary, and Jim Jordan chairs that subcommittee in addition to the full committee. All three of them had worked with Empower to varying degrees, and so when I started at Empower on March 1st of 2023, Garrett O'Boyle we were not working with him at that point any longer. All three of them had been individuals who had their security clearances suspended.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really the big issue, was all of them had in varying ways, blown the whistle. Sometimes, in different cases, it was more kind of public than others. And so both Steve and Marcus had pending things with the Inspector General, which is who is supposed to investigate in these cases. So for most federal employees, again, they go through this route that I just described of OSC and then to MSPB. FBI is accepted from that for a variety of reasons. And then even if they were covered, then security clearances are just a totally different system altogether. So you have to go to the Department of Justice Inspector General. It's really a mess. I mean, I could spend a long time describing the problems with that protection system, which doesn't protect, right? But
right.
The day after that hearing, I accompanied both Steve and then separately Marcus to meet with the Inspector General to tell their stories. And Marcus still has an open case there. But the weaponization subcommittee had heard the stories of each of these individuals. Again, the common thread was the FBI is using security clearances to retaliate against whistleblowers. And so that's what they wanted to explore more. And, these guys have really compelling stories. And especially as Garrett O'Boyle goes into the detail of how his managers waited until he was moving across the country before they suspended it, so that when he arrived, his storage unit with all of his family's belongings were locked up. I mean, it was just really a heart-wrenching story.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was really powerful for the American people to hear that directly from these courageous individuals.
It was. I'll tell you, when I listened to Garrett's story and realized that, he literally was set up by, seemingly by his agency, by his employer, to be in the most untenable situation possible, where he was basically at the mercy because he didn't have the ability to access his belongings, his finances. He can't. I know it makes the system makes it very difficult for them to secure any kind of other employment. It just was mind-boggling to me to realize that this was the level at which, the retaliation was happening.
Yeah, they definitely tried. Their goal, to an extent, the FBI is just to push these guys out, right? They want to force you to resign, because if they have to do it, then there are these appeals. There's this process. But if they can just make life so miserable that you say this isn't worth it and you just leave, and that's what Steve Friend ultimately did. He did resign from the FBI, and Marcus is really the only one of the three who is still on the books, and that's just been it's been 2.5 years now that he's gone without pay. He has not, for most of that, wasn't able to get approval for outside employment. We had to really come in and start making a fuss before they came back and actually wouldn't even respond on his outside employment requests. And he's still waiting on his security clearance appeal. And even though a lot of people donated, so Kyle Seraphin, if you are familiar with him, these guys have all kind of branded together as the suspendables, right, from the FBI. And so Kyle did this Give, Send, Go fundraiser midway through, because both Garrett and Marcus were in a position of not being sure if they'd be able to make their next mortgage payments. They raised a significant amount of money, and of course, this was people wanting to help make sure that these guys had a roof over their head, that they were able to feed their families. But the FBI has objected to them, receiving those funds. And it's just another example. It's just really ridiculous that they would interpret the ethics regulations in such a way that, the ethics regulations are designed to prevent people from receiving money that influences the conduct of their jobs, right? So you can understand the reason for that, but that's a very different situation from these charitable donations just for these guys to even live. And as I keep coming back to, that's really frustrating. It's quite a contrast from Joe Biden having family members who receive money directly to them really only because of the position that he has had at various times. I mean, if you look through the regulations, and they've been in place for a long time, they're administered by the Office of Government Ethics, but you look through those and you can really see that Hunter Biden's conduct would be contemplated in there, but they just don't apply those things to the vice president or the president.
Interesting. So, and we just have a minute or so left here, but Tristan, in that time, what can you let people know to kind of give them hope? Because you listen to these stories and it's so frustrating, and it makes you feel like, the system is just so stacked against the ordinary person and even the person that's trying to do right and call to attention the problems that are there. Are you seeing some areas where there are some success stories to share?
Yeah, it's just on a case-by-case basis. There are protections there, and Congress, at least in word, right? Hopefully they back it up, but there is a bipartisan commitment to protecting whistleblowers, both sides say. Now, when the specific whistleblowers come, that's a different matter. But in general, those policies are there, and I think it's important to use those. So I definitely would encourage people, if you're considering blowing the whistle, become familiar with the law, learn the protections that are in place, be smart about it. But one single individual can make a huge difference. I mean, the world never would have known about Operation Fast and Furious if it wasn't for whistleblowers. The world never would have known about all of the ways the DOJ hamstrung the Biden investigation if it wasn't for our IRS whistleblower clients. I mean, people can have a huge impact, but at the end of the day, it's a risk for people, and so you got to know the protections that are in place.
And where can folks go if they want to find out more about the work that you all do at Empower, or just follow you on social media?
So empoweroversight.com, .org is our website, Empower Oversight. And my Twitter handle is just Tristan Leavitt, Tristan Leavitt. And we reference our press releases and other things like that pretty frequently on Twitter.
Fantastic. Well, Tristan, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it, and look forward to talking to you in the future.
Thanks, Tristan.
Great. Thanks so much. Bye.
All right, folks, when we come back, we are going to, I think we're going to play a game.
Yes.
Gabe's found some interesting stuff to kind of maybe quiz me on or get my take on, and so I'm looking forward to testing this out. Stick around. You're listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
I want a new drug. One that won't make me sick. One that won't make me crash my car and make me feel free.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL.
One that won't hurt my head. One that won't make my mouth too dry and make my eyes too red.
Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Hey News Talk STL family, this is Marissa Jones with Jones Air and Water. I am so excited to announce our newest addition to our services, nutrition and wellness coaching. If you are looking to lose weight, increase energy, get rid of those headaches, balance your hormones, or simply find a healthy balance in your lifestyle, give me a call today. Mention News Talk STL and receive 10% off any nutritional service. Call us at 636-899-1040. That's 636-899-1040.
Hello, my name's Chad Clayman with ClaymanGroup.com, KLAMEN Group.com. We're local and family owned. We buy houses in as-is condition direct from the seller. Last year, we bought over 75 houses, and the reason that matters to you, we're able to buy so many houses because we make such competitive offers. So if you're thinking about selling a house as is, please reach out. We're definitely interested in competing and providing you with the best offer and the best price. KLAMEN Group.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Speaking with Jim Talent, former U.S. Senator and chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council.
We have 200 American kids die every day from fentanyl poisoning. A lot of these kids take a pill and they don't know that it has fentanyl, or they don't know it has as much fentanyl, and they accidentally overdose and die. And this is largely the result of the border being uncontrolled.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
You can't buy a best friend. You can love them, walk them, pet them, and care for them, whether they want you to or not. You can take a picture or 50. You can fly to the moon, travel the world, or just stay in bed. You can't buy a best friend like that, but you can adopt one. There are millions of pets waiting for a best friend just like you. Help us save them all at bestfriends.org.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com.
Hey, this is Todd Showalter. Join me for the Right Mind Show on Saturday at 5 as I try to put some fun back into this wacky radio station. You know, and speaking of wacky, let's get back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Well, I got news for Todd Showalter. A, I'm not Mike Ferguson, and B, I'm just as much fun.
Clearly.
It might be that Todd and I went to the same high school. Maybe we honed our skills in the same environment growing up. You never know. But anyway, hi, I'm Susie Moore. I'm here filling in for Mike Ferguson on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show, and we're about to have some fun.
Yeah.
Well, what you got to say what high school it is then if you're going to go that
that's
far.
right.
That's true.
Where'd you go to high school? Parkway West.
Okay. All right.
Longhorns, yay. So we were talking a couple segments ago about the fact that, time's a weird thing.
Yes.
And when you think about when something happened in history and how long ago something was, and the fact that Joe Biden when his birth was closer to Abraham Lincoln's inauguration than to his own inauguration.
Yeah.
So just
That's wild.
Yeah. So Gabe decided to have some fun with that.
Yeah, I looked online because I've seen these articles before about here are some historical facts that are going to ruin your perception of time, and because people have the knowledge of very basic ideas, and we put them on a timeline in our brain, and they just they live in those eras, and we don't really relate them sometimes. There are things that because they live in sort of different genres, we kind of separate them. So here's one. Harriet the Tortoise, who died in 2006. She was, she made some appearances with Charles Irwin.
Greg Irwin?
Greg, yeah.
I think it was Greg Irwin.
Irwin.
Yeah. Steve Irwin.
Steve Irwin. That's it.
That guy.
Gosh, for some reason I can't remember his name. So that tortoise saw Charles Darwin in person.
What?
Yeah, exactly. When Charles Darwin made his famed trip around the world in the Galapagos Islands, stuff like that, made all of his observations, Harriet the tortoise was among the animals that he observed.
So when Harriet met Charles.
Yeah. I see what you did there.
All right.
Now, among some of these other things, too, woolly mammoths. We think of woolly mammoths, you got the cavemen, they're trying to, you got the picture in your head of the woolly mammoth. Woolly mammoths were still alive while the Egyptians were building the pyramids.
Oh. It's too bad they couldn't use them to help with that, because I bet that was like some heavy duty.
That was a heavy duty lifting, right?
Probably the wrong climate for them, though.
Probably the wrong place for those types of things. Here's another one. Oxford University had existed for hundreds of years before the Aztec Empire was founded.
What? No.
Yes.
No.
Oxford University was founded in like 1067 or something crazy like that.
Like Battle of Hastings time?
Yeah, yes, like way, way back, apparently. That we did know about it. Or 1096. Let me double check.
That's important.
Yeah, 1096. And the Aztec Empire wasn't founded until 1428.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that is mind-boggling.
Isn't that crazy? Doesn't that kind of shake up your perception of things? Mind blown. Exactly. So these are fun little things here. George Washington died in 1799.
Mm-hmm.
The first dinosaur fossil was discovered in 1824. So George Washington never knew that dinosaurs existed.
Oh, I bet he knew.
It was among the presidential secrets as a notebook that he got.
It was one of his classified documents. It was in his binder.
Now, this one will trip you up a little bit, too. Everybody's got a Nintendo. I'm sure you've got a Nintendo. You've had a Nintendo. You got a Nintendo for your kid of some sort, whether it's a Game Boy, the Cube, or the thing. And I had an NES.
Never did. Sorry, but
your kid never had a Nintendo.
Xbox.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So she never had like a little thing.
No.
That's interesting.
I know.
Okay.
We're weird.
All right.
Sorry.
You guys are weird. No, I'm kidding.
I'll own it.
Yeah, I've got.
But
an
I'm with
Xbox
you.
too.
I mean, I've seen Nintendos.
They're everywhere. Everybody knows it.
They
Well,
are.
the thing is, that company was actually founded in 1889.
What?
Yes, they started out as a trading card, like a playing card company. They were a game company, but they pre-existed video games. But the thing is, Nintendo was founded the same year that Jack the Ripper was still on the loose.
Yeah.
That
is weird historical context.
Weird historical context, and it kind of makes things weird. Anne Frank and Martin Luther King Jr. were born in the same year.
Oh, wow.
1929.
Wow.
Yep. Let's see. 1977.
Yes, I remember it.
I was born.
Oh, congratulations. Yay.
Star Wars came out.
Yes.
And the last guillotine execution in France happened.
What? Well, okay, so I was 9, turning 9. I do remember going to Star Wars. That was big.
Yeah, it was huge.
I probably didn't hear about the guillotine.
No,
execution.
it was the last guillotine execution.
Wow.
Okay, and then here's the last one I'm gonna pull out here, and this one's kind of weird. You got to follow me. Okay, so the samurai were officially abolished as a caste in Japanese society during the Meiji Restoration, 1867. All right, 1867. The first fax machine, or the printing telegraph, was invented in 1843. And Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in 1865. So there's a 22-year window in which a samurai could have faxed Abraham Lincoln.
That's wild. Stick around, folks. We'll be back right after this on Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show on News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
My head just exploded.
With so much
I think
happening,
it was President Reagan said, we're from the government. We're here to help.
so much to talk about.
Education Secretary flubbing one of Ronald Reagan's iconic lines.
9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
You never want to miss a moment.
There's nothing about this that shows anything good about Hamas.
On air, online, and always on your smart device.
The vast majority of those that were taken captive on that day are still there.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
It's Lincoln Day in St. Charles County. This is Tim Jones inviting you to join News Talk STL and U.S. Senator Josh Hawley on Friday, March 22nd at Old Hickory Golf Club in St. Charles. Cocktails, dinner, Senator Josh Hawley, and a room full of fellow conservatives. It will be a great, fun night. Just log on to stcharlesgop.com for more details and to purchase tickets, and we'll see you there. That's Friday, March 22nd at Old Hickory Golf Club in St. Charles. stcharlesgop.com, stcharlesgop.com.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. That's 800-515-2397.
KLDY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefontaine, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019 94.1 and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. Sweden's national flag has been raised at NATO headquarters, cementing the Nordic country's place as the 32nd member of the alliance 2 years after Russia's invasion of Ukraine pushed Sweden into the arms of NATO. President Biden's gradually stepping up his criticism of Israel for its conduct of the war with Hamas.
The president said he believes Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is hurting Israel more than helping Israel, and how he's approaching its war against Hamas in Gaza. He told MSNBC that the prime minister must pay more attention to the innocent lives being lost as a Israel's right to pursue Hamas, and that he would not cut off weapons for the Jewish state. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Former President Trump says that President Biden, in his State of the Union speech, got it backwards.
Joe Biden should not be shouting angrily at America. America should be shouting angrily at Joe Biden.
Mr. Trump holding a weekend rally in Georgia.
And we should be saying, Crooked Joe, you're fired. Get out of here. You're fired. You're incompetent.
President Biden also held a rally in Georgia.
MAGA Republicans and Donald Trump want to pass a national ban on the right to choose. Well, hear me loud and clear. Not on my watch.
Georgia holds its primaries tomorrow. All 5 people on board a private jet were killed. The plane crashed yesterday afternoon in a wooded area in rural Hot Springs, Virginia. It's about 50 miles to the northwest of Lynchburg. On Wall Street this morning, stock futures pointing to a lower open. The Dow futures are down 182 points. NASDAQ futures off 114. S&P futures 24 points in the red. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Are you tired of the ups and downs of the stock market? Are you sick of logging into your brokerage account only to find out that you've lost hundreds or thousands of dollars in a single day? At MarketBeat, we know that constantly moving in and out of stocks, hoping to get lucky, is a loser's game. Buying hot stocks after they've already shot up in value is a recipe for disaster. It's time to stop playing the loser's game and invest in stocks that have shown they can stand the test of time. MarketBeat has prepared a free report titled 7 Stocks to Buy and Hold Forever, and we would like to text it to you for free. Text the word profit to 68285. The companies in this report might appear to be nothing special at first glance, but these companies print billions of dollars of cash each year in profit. If you would like to receive our free report of 7 stocks to buy and hold forever, simply text profit to 68285 and we'll text you this report instantly. Text profit to 68285 and we'll send you this free report right now. Text the word profit to 68285.
Standard message and data rates may apply. Please consult with your investment or tax professional.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Sunshine and a warm southerly flow team up for some beautiful weather today and Tuesday. Winds out of the south and southwest at 5 to 15 miles per hour today. Looking at afternoon highs from around 70 to 73 degrees. Tonight, clear, mild, down to 47 for the early morning low. Tuesday, sunshiny in the morning, partly cloudy in the afternoon, but even warmer, up to 75 tomorrow afternoon. Looks a little unsettled for the second half of the week with on and off rain and some thunderstorms. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
Looking for a cruise vacation? Cruise.com is offering its exclusive sale of the year to all listeners to this station. Every major cruise line, including Royal Caribbean, Carnival, Princess, MSC, and more, are on sale now. Call 1-800-507-9264 and book one of these deals while supplies last. Cruises start from as low as $39 per person per day. There isn't a better vacation value to places like Alaska, Europe, the Caribbean, South America, and more. Call one of the largest cruise specialists in the world at 1-800-507-9264. We'll find you a vacation that includes drinks, Wi-Fi, excursions, and more. Call 1-800-507-9264. That's 1-800-507-9264. Space is limited. Don't miss your opportunity to book the best deal of the year. That's 1-800-507-9264. Sponsored by Cruise.com.
Mike Ferguson.
Are you pretending to be crazy?
Gabe Pfeiffer.
There's something serious I have to tell you about the future.
Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm? Get up, St. Louis.
Hey, will you guys knock it off?
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL. Get up! Get up! This is your cousin
Welcome back, folks. You're listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL. Susie Moore filling in for Mike one more time while he is out playing old man baseball. And we are rolling into the 8 o'clock hour, even if it feels like the 7 o'clock hour, because daylight saving time.
Oh, we need to change the number there.
Well, I figured it out. Right. I'm doing the math. It's okay. We're good. We're good.
It hurts my head.
Wait a second. The math hurts your head?
No. Just the fact that I'm here an hour earlier than I should be.
I was like, wait, the rocket scientist is saying the math hurts his head? That's not right.
It's the kind of math that impacts my life, and I don't like it.
You know, since we're on the topic of mind-bending sort of things, we talked about the mammoth, the woolly mammoth. Mm-hmm. And it reminded me that we wrote this article last week. Ward Clark at RedState wrote this last week about this company called Colossal Biosciences, that they they're working on a project that would basically recreate the mammoth. Now,
Yeah.
it's not technically. I had it wrong. They didn't. It's not like mammoth DNA. They've got these like special cells that are called pluripotent stem cells that they can kind of manipulate. What could go wrong? Kind of to be what they want. So their goal is to bring back a mammal or mammoth-like creature, but it won't be the actual woolly mammoth that is actually extinct.
Okay, so this is trying to manipulate how the gene expression is in their ancestors, essentially.
Correct.
Right? So that they would express those genes more prominently.
This is, yeah.
It's like turning on the Cro-Magnon gene that you might have buried in you, so your kid appears more Cro-Magnon.
I mean, they tout themselves as the world's first de-extinction company. I mean, so their ultimate goal is to have, basically, it's like Jurassic Park meets, whatever. But it's to have one of these creatures that people will look at and say it's like,
hey, look, that looks
it's
like
essentially a woolly mammoth. But, I don't know.
So preoccupied with whether or not they could.
Yeah.
Not stop as they should.
Yeah. I don't know.
Famous line from Jurassic
Park. Yeah.
And it's applicable.
Absolutely it is. And I don't know. Whenever I think about them, I always think about the movie Ice Age, which was like on massive repeat when my daughter was a little toddler. We watched, she called it High Cage.
High Cage.
We watched High Cage a lot.
Oh, gosh.
But speaking of fossils, Joe Biden...
You caught me off guard.
Over the weekend, we got treated to the tale of two rallies because both Joe Biden and Donald Trump were holding rallies in Georgia. And there was a stark contrast between the two in a number of ways.
You think?
Yeah. First of which being that the Biden rally was not nearly as well attended.
Mm-hmm. So it looked similar to the basement campaign where he'd come out and people in their circles would stand there and clap politely.
Yeah. And I mean, whatever you say, whatever you think about the 2020 election, that he actually got 81 million votes, whatever your thoughts are, wherever you land on that, you have to acknowledge there's an enthusiasm gap.
That's real.
Now, does that translate into votes come election time, and are the votes accurately recorded? Two separate questions.
Yes.
Important questions. But the enthusiasm gap is real. Another stark contrast between the two rallies was this. While Biden keeps stumbling over whether or not to even mention Lincoln Riley, somebody Riley, and whether or not to call the alleged perpetrator an illegal versus a newcomer versus undocumented, Trump had the Riley family with him at his rally.
Oh, that would be a stark difference.
So there are video clips of him like hugging them, and I think they've made it be known that they're very, very unhappy with how President Biden has handled things. And I mean, they're hurting. There's no question about it. They have in the past couple of weeks just gone through the most unimaginable loss in horrific circumstances, and so I'm sure their emotions are raw or whatever, but they clearly feel like the president hasn't really been responsive to the issue, hasn't acknowledged it in an appropriate fashion. I think mom was a little perturbed that he couldn't say her daughter's name right. So then you've got that stark contrast there.
And then, oddly enough, you could even toss in Biden looking up into the balcony as though they were there during the speech.
Yeah.
No, sorry, they're not there.
They're not. No, they're not. And so, once again, there's this interesting contrast. So for all the efforts of the left now to say, well, Donald Trump's old too, and he's losing a step too. It's like if you put them side by side.
Oh yeah.
It's
big difference.
Yeah, and which is why I maintain there will not be presidential debates.
Oh gosh, no. Yeah,
it's not going to happen. The only way there will be presidential debates is if Joe is subbed out and somebody younger.
Yes.
And more with it is then the candidate,
which is still possible.
It's still possible.
Yeah, I mean until the convention.
Yeah, which is in August.
Nothing is official.
Yeah, so until we're through August, who knows? But the contrast is there, and of course Trump is leaning into it wisely, because Biden dropped an ad that I'm not going to play the video here, but the quote from it is, "I'm not a young guy. That's no secret. But here's the deal."
Oh, here's the deal.
But here's the deal. I understand how to get things done for the American people.
No malarkey.
Well, if you do, could you start doing it, Joe?
Yeah,
'Cause I'm thinking.
could you have started doing it, I don't know, 40 years ago when you entered government?
Are you just warming up? What's the deal? We're waiting.
He's got a long warm-up.
We're waiting.
He's like, no, just 4 more years and I'll get it right.
So immediately the Trump campaign drops an ad that's like, it's all of the pictures of like Joe stumbling up the steps of Air Force One, his unfortunate fall at the military academy graduation, whatever ceremony that was.
Oh, he's like walked off the stage or something?
Well, he tripped over like a cord.
He just tripped over something.
He did trip over a cord.
Yeah.
His falling off the bicycle, all of the blank stares, the shaking hands with nobody, the wandering off the stage. It was recent. It was it was when he was calling. He wanted to call Trump out on something, but he was giving a press conference, and he took a long pause. And in fairness to him, he may have been thinking, "How do I say this the right way?" Because it was kind of a critical moment there. But the pause was like 10 seconds of him just with his mouth open.
Oh yeah,
and looking.
He doesn't appear to be able to close his mouth at this point.
Yeah.
He's kind of turned into
only
a
when he's
of
eating ice cream.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, the contrast between the two is really noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their styles were always different.
Sure.
Although when you think about it, I mean, Joe's kind of, particularly in his younger days, kind of styled himself as sort of not the bruiser, like the tough guy. You know. Corn Pop was a bad dude, but I subdued him with my, I mean, he's threatened to take Donald Trump behind the gym and pound his face or whatever. I mean, so he has that sort of mentality of trying to sound like a tough guy.
Yeah, like the politician's version of that.
Right. But yet, Donald Trump's the one that's the bully.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think if anyone were being intellectually honest, they'd be hard pressed to say that he isn't sometimes a little rough and tumble with his language. I mean, he is.
Well, and he's often shown himself to be a little rough and tumble with voters. There were various events where he was essentially threatening individuals who would ask him tough questions or challenged him on something.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, he's got a temper on him, and
he does.
But he likes to take it out on
look,
regular
fat.
people. Yeah, look fat.
Yeah, dog face pony soldier.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's Biden, and I mean, as I said, I mean, even with Trump, you have to acknowledge that the demeanor and the language can be rough.
Oh, Trump is legitimately a verbal bully.
He is,
and sometimes you need one of those.
Sometimes it works. Sometimes it's really cringy and whatever. But the bottom line is, the contrast between the two of them is very stark.
It is stark.
I was also reminded of another little Biden faux pas. He was caught on a hot mic as he was leaving the chamber after the State of the Union address, talking to, I don't even know who he was talking to. Was it Blinken or somebody? And they were talking about Bibi Netanyahu. And, obviously there's tension right now between the U.S. and Israel because we're trying to get them to somehow play nice in war. For whatever, and they're battling for their survival, and we're just saying, can you play nice? Can you be nicer to Hamas and not blow them up as much?
So stupid.
But he's saying, okay, well, we're having this conversation, and we're going to have a come to Jesus moment.
Yeah, I caught that. It's like, wait a minute, hold on, show the phone.
Record scratch.
That's not the expression you use
with the leader of Israel,
of the only Jewish state in the world.
Now, I mean, for people that are always caught up in with the niceties of thing and the proper way to say things, and not calling an illegal an illegal, that. Look, I've used that term before. I understand the phrase.
That's one of my favorite phrases.
Yeah,
actually.
I mean, it has its purpose. That's maybe not the right context for it.
Context does matter.
And here's my favorite thing about that. And when he was asked about that, to try and clean that up, his response was something like, "Oh, that's a saying in the southern part of my state."
No, he didn't say that. Stop lying to me, Susie.
I'll find it. I promise you, I'll find it.
He said the southern part of his state of Delaware.
Yeah, Southern. Did you know that Southern Delaware has its own little? Like,
I didn't
regional...
realize Southern Delaware was part of the Bible Belt. Like that, I was not aware that the Bible Belt had such a far reach.
Wait, it's such a very specific thing. You know, it's like we say that in this because then that somehow makes it better. No, it was a wrong thing to say about the leader of the Jewish state.
Well, that's just how we say things in South Delaware.
Right. Well, could someone else from the South get away with something that is not considered politically correct?
Oh,
that's just how we say it in the South.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Bless his heart.
This is his words. It's an expression used in the southern part of my state.
Wow.
Like,
okay.
He really thinks it comes from Delaware?
It comes from Delaware.
And Delaware's not that big.
No.
You don't have like a big regional dialectical difference between northern Delaware and southern Delaware. I mean, I realize it's a long vertical state, but it's really not that big.
And it's not in the South.
No.
There's nowhere even like you can't even sneeze southern in Delaware.
In fairness, he didn't say in the South. He said in the southern part of my state. So he could have been talking about Minnesota for all we care. The point is, somehow that's supposed to make it better. Sorry, BB. That's how we do it in the southern part of Delaware. That's
he could have said "come to Moses" moment.
Right. There you go.
Or just not say anything because
we'll have heart to heart.
You need to leave Israel alone. How about that?
Yeah,
leave them alone.
How about that?
I mean, keep selling them stuff. I mean, yes, sell them whatever they need. But leave them alone. Let them conduct their anti-terrorism operation as necessary.
I don't know. But, I have to say he is the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh, gosh. He's such a content cow.
He really is.
Yeah.
Real quick here, there's a saying I've learned from Ward Clark, the Alaskan man, that there's a saying called "That's Alaska for you."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm at the point now where I'm like, "That's Joe for you."
That's Joe for you. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
There it is.
Stick around, folks. We'll be back right after this on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL 101.9 94.1.
You have a soul so dark it is no more. And all at once depart, no destination.
This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, 99.1 HD3 and newstalkstl.com. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Hey everyone, this is Nick Schroer from Stand and Fight every Sunday 8 to 10 p.m. If you need tree removal, storm damage, repairs to trees, tree trimming, pruning, if your bushes are out of control, call River City Tree Service. Free quotes right now, 314-270-8071, 314-270-8071. Professional tree services performed by ISA certified arborists. Request your free quote at rivercitytreeservice.com.
Hi, Sean Long from STL Fenceworks. A new fence or deck is an investment in your home and your lifestyle. But how do you ensure that you're getting the most out of that investment? At STL Fenceworks, we know the key is satisfaction. Satisfaction means getting a fence or deck that not only meets your needs, but exceeds your expectations. Satisfaction means working with a team that cares about your project as much as you do. Satisfaction means having confidence in the quality of your new fence or deck, knowing that it was built with the best of materials and workmanship. STL Fenceworks, your satisfaction is our passion. And for me, satisfaction is knowing that providing for your family is how I provide for mine. Visit stlfenceworks.com and experience the satisfaction in making your backyard dreams into a reality.
This is 101.9 and 94.1.
Female millennial Trump supporter. I listen to it like every day. Like, seriously, you get it.
News Talk STL.
Hey, it's Joe Pags. Catch me tonight. But right now, back to more of Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
I just get into the music and I'm like dancing along and I'm like, oh, I guess I should probably be talking, shouldn't I? Hey, welcome in. You're listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL. Susie Moore filling in for Mike today, here with Gabe and Stell. This next story that I want to talk about is, it was one of those things that kind of did a slow burn with me. Like the first time I heard it, I was like, oh. And then the more I watched it, I was like, wow. I mean, I really got to the point where I kind of wanted to punch George Stephanopoulos' face.
Yeah. Well, isn't that standard for watching George Stephanopoulos?
So he's one of those that doesn't grate on me as much as some do. I mean, he's obviously he started out like working for the Clinton administration. So I expect a certain level of, I don't know. Like,
yeah,
I know
it's
what I'm getting with him.
Yes, there you go.
I don't expect to like necessarily his approach to most things or what he has to say about most things, but at the same time,
this was a step too far.
It was.
Well,
Yeah, it
maybe
was.
a few steps too far.
Several. Maybe. So here's the setup. So he's hosting. I guess it's on ABC. I can't even think what show he hosts.
Yeah, I don't know what show it is.
I don't know.
Called.
He's hosting it, and he's got Nancy Mace on, who's, of course, a congresswoman from South Carolina. Everybody's from South Carolina. It's like the hub of the universe right now. So he's got her on, and he's asking her about her. She's endorsed Donald Trump for president, as have most of the people and most of the prominent Republicans in the party have now. We're waiting to see if Nikki Haley will, but I suspect she probably will. So he's basically asking her, he's like, and she's been very open about this. She is a victim of rape. She was raped, I think, when she was 16 years old.
Oh, wow.
And that's a story that she didn't share publicly for many, many years. But in the context of some legislative discussion that came up like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, she did share that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it had to do with whether there should be a rape and incest exception in an abortion law.
Right.
So
Probably.
she shared her story, and she's been open about that since, and she's not shied away from it. But he says, as a rape victim, how do you endorse somebody like Donald Trump, who's been found liable by 2 judges and 2 juries for rape? Now, before I get to the heart of that,
the little legal thing.
I want to do a little legal dissection here.
Mm-hmm.
A, he was not found liable for rape by either a judge or a jury ever. He was accused of lying about it, and he was found liable for lying about it and found liable for sexual abuse, I think was the terminology used. Now, I realize that may seem like splitting hairs to some, but those are 2 separate things in the law.
Yes.
So he's not been found liable for rape. Now, he was careful to say liable instead of guilty because this wasn't a criminal prosecution.
Right.
It was a civil case brought by E. Jean Carroll, who claims that he assaulted her in a dressing room in Goodman back in the 90s. But be that as it may, you've got George Stephanopoulos, who should know better.
Yeah.
Wrongly saying that Donald Trump has been found legally liable for rape, which he has not. And by the way, the second jury was only about defamation.
Right.
Okay, so let's just say that. But now, let's get to this. What planet are you on where you think that it's a good idea to try and shame somebody for, say, as a victim of rape? How do you do X, Y, or Z?
Right. That is it's necessarily a shaming tactic.
In credit to Nancy Mace, she immediately called it out. She didn't lose her cool.
Mm-hmm.
She stayed very calm and looked him straight in the eye, and she said, you're shaming me. You're trying to use my experience and my victimhood and shame me. He's like, oh, no, I'm not trying to shame you. She's like, no, you are.
Yeah.
And she did not give ground at all.
Good, as she should.
Pushed back. You're asking me a question about my political choices, trying to shame me as a rape victim, and I find it disgusting. And so there's 2 minutes of the 2 of them she's pushing back, and he's like, oh, no, I'm not doing that. And she's like, yeah, you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you are. And I thought, that takes a lot of gall. Like, you could say, all right, there's all kinds of negatives about Donald Trump. There's this, there's that, there's this. What's your basis for supporting him?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, I get. I mean, obviously, the shaming tactic isn't as intense as this, but as a black man, how do you, I've received those. It is a shaming tactic. That's the point of it. It's what you're trying to say is the reality of your existence is contradictory to your stance on something.
Right.
And that's the tactic that's being used. How could you, as this, do this?
Right.
That's the shaming tactic. That's the shaming construction. You can plug in whatever you want on either side of that. So she immediately caught it. And I mean, I caught it as he was like, yeah, that's completely shaming.
As a black man, you caught it.
As a black man, it's like, as a black man, how do you square being able to?
resist that
No, seriously. No, but that's
right.
That's exactly what Stephanopoulos did. The fact that he wouldn't own it says that he knew exactly what he was doing also.
Absolutely. And you're right. It comes down to the how could you?
How could you?
How could you?
Yes.
Yeah. And so that actually inspired my more to the point today, because I was thinking about the politics of shaming and the fact that we have entered an era where, I mean, like, I can remember saying, oh my God, I can't believe you're supporting this person. Or like, how, what is it? Like, what are you thinking? We all do that.
Yeah. What are you thinking is a different question, though.
That's a different question than how could you?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes.
And that's very, very much become a thing in this era of, I mean, a large part of it kind of has to do with Donald Trump, but not really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bigger than that.
Yeah.
Because you get how could you vote for Republicans? You're a woman.
Right.
How could you vote for Republicans? Yeah. Because their policies are better.
Yeah, yeah. How could you be against abortion rights?
Right. Yeah.
How could you?
Because I'm pro-life.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the thing.
And because I used to be pro-choice, and I wrestled with it long and hard, and eventually came to this conclusion after thinking about it with my own little female brain here.
And you can too.
Yeah, exactly. So it just I don't know. Like I said, that was one of those things where I watched the clip initially and was like, oh. And then the more I watched it, the more I was like, you son of a, you know what?
Well, apparently this lasted for 10 minutes, right? It was like a full 10 minutes of them going back and forth about this thing.
The clip that I saw was only 2 minutes.
Okay.
But nevertheless, it was uncomfortable to the point of like I said, it got to the point where I wanted to reach through the screen and punch him in the face.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen those where it like your heart starts pumping as though you're sitting in the chair, with the person who's like, ooh, I don't like the way this thing is making me feel. Yeah. I've been in that situation. I've seen those instances where it really gets at you in such a visceral level that, like you said, you want to do violence.
Right. Well, and so here's the other thing. I mean, I think to a lesser extent when someone says, as a woman, blah, 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 as a black man, whatever. So they're talking about, and we do this thing in politics particularly, where we break people down into their demographics and their voting blocks. So you're right. It's a form of shaming because we've got the identity politics so ingrained in us at this point that you believe that certain people that belong to this group should all believe this way.
Yes, they must.
Which is baloney.
Yes.
But so I understand kind of the impulse there to ask that question. It's not necessary. It doesn't matter whether the person you're talking to is white, black, female, male, doesn't know, whatever. You can just say, why are you supporting this guy?
Right.
It shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
But to use the fact that this person was a victim of a heinous crime against them.
It's so gross. It's so gross.
Yeah.
Now, I think this is kind of indicative of a thing that leftists do a lot. Or I should say the people on the left. I wouldn't say necessarily that Stephanopoulos is a leftist in the way that I relate leftists to evil people. Right. I feel
like he's more of the traditional Democrat.
Yeah, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that. But the thing is, the liberals these days have become tools of leftists, and they've allowed themselves to become tools of leftists. And this was basically a result of that sort of leftist thinking, where you transform what could possibly be a valuable rhetorical tool or a valuable even societal tool, and you turn it into something ugly and destructive. So the thing is, shame used to have a function in society.
It has a constructive purpose.
It has a constructive purpose. There are bounds on proper societal behavior that are important to maintain in order for us to all live together, because everybody's different and everybody's weird.
Right.
So we have these rules about propriety that were that were enforced essentially through shame. It's this social shun. It's like, if you perform this way, I'm going to shun you, or I'm going to question your, something about you, or something like that. It's like, how could you? How could you used to be a valuable tool in society? But they've turned it into some sort of ugly political bludgeon that they use against people when they're trying to weaponize their identity against them.
Yep. Yeah, and as I noted in my piece today, if you vote for this guy, you're a bitter clinger, you're a deplorable.
Yep.
You're a white, rural, rage-filled, racist root.
Yes. I love that, by the way. I like alliteration. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what it comes down to. It's like you're condemned for who you're choosing to vote for, no matter what the reasons behind that.
Right. Yeah. See, the good white people recognize their privilege.
That's right. That's right.
You want to be a good white person, don't you?
Yeah.
Head pat.
That's identity politics in a nutshell.
There it is.
Well, let's stick around, folks. When we come back, we're going to talk about something totally different, but kind of freaky.
Okay.
So.
Oh, yeah, this story.
Yeah.
This is a wild
story.
Yeah,
All
there's
right.
an intersection of a lot of things.
Absolutely.
News, history, the internet culture in and of itself.
All of it.
Oh, man.
We've got it all. So stick around, folks. You're listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
Well, no one told me about her. How many people cried? But it's too late to say you're sorry. How would I know? Why should I care? Please don't bother trying to find her. She's not there. Nobody told me about her.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Well, no one told me about her, though they all knew. But it's too late to say you're sorry. How would I know? Why should I care? Please don't bother trying to find her. She's not there.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Sunshine and a warm southerly flow team up for some beautiful weather today and Tuesday. Winds out of the south and southwest at 5 to 15 miles per hour today. Looking at afternoon highs from around 70 to 73 degrees. Tonight, clear, mild, down to 47 for the early morning low. Tuesday, sunshiny in the morning, partly cloudy in the afternoon, but even warmer, up to 75 tomorrow afternoon. Looks a little unsettled for the second half of the week with on and off rain and some thunderstorms. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Fox News commentary.
The Florida legislature passed a bill to crack down on homeless encampments and public camping. Save that mess for California. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
You can live out your MasterChef dreams when you find a professional on Angie to tackle your dream kitchen remodel. Connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. Inside to outside, repairs to renovations. Get started on the Angie app or visit Angie.com today. You can do this when you Angie that.
If you've been in California recently, you know tent cities and sprawling homeless encampments are basically an accepted lifestyle and the norm, but that kind of thing won't fly in Florida. The Florida legislature recently passed a bill to crack down on public camping and sleeping. The bill prevents counties and municipalities in Florida from allowing or authorizing public sleeping or public camping on public property, public buildings, or public rights of way without a lawfully issued temporary permit. This will go a long way to ensure the safety of the public as well as the safety of the homeless population. If a locality wants to set up a homeless sleeping zone, it must abide by strict standards that include strict rules on drug use and outline sanitation guidelines. It's a good thing Florida is getting ahead of this issue. Just look at California for a cautionary tale. Homelessness is a growing issue that should be dealt with not via tent cities, but just how Florida's doing it. I'm Tommy Lahren.
Hi, it's Susie Moore. Come join me Friday, March 15th in beautiful Washington, Missouri. I'm the keynote speaker for Franklin County's annual Lincoln Reagan Banquet. Hear from your Republican candidates running for national and statewide office, dinner, raffles, and most important, support the Franklin County GOP. Just go to fcrcc.org for tickets. fcrcc.org. And I'll see you at the Franklin County Lincoln Reagan Dinner. That's fcrcc.org for tickets. That's fcrcc.org for tickets.
Does your life insurance plan include living benefits, hearing, diabetic supplies, teledoc service, discounts on urns, caskets, tombstones? Larry Connors here. I suggest you call Benjamin Schaefer at Senior Memorial. Call 314-866-8886 or visit memorialplans.com. Memorialplans.com. Senior Memorial Heritage Protection.
Classic Kicks Country is streaming now. Hear all your new country favorites from the 90s.
I should have been a cowboy.
Streaming as it happened in the 90s. Classic Kicks.
Let's go, girls.
Download the Classic Kicks app from the App Store. Online at ClassicKicks.com.
I'll go back.
Or enable the Classic Kicks skill on Alexa.
I love this station.
90s new country streaming now. This is what's happening.
I know it may not look like it, but I've been around a while.
President Biden is not interested in bringing people together, and he's also not interested in creating real solutions.
He came to give a campaign speech, and it was that.
101.9 and 94.1. News Talk STL.
Hello, morning people. Tony Colombo and Katie Fitzpatrick here.
Thanks for listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning here on News Talk STL. And don't forget to join us today at 2 for Colombo and Katie.
See you then.
Little Chicago.
My favorite band. I
Why
have
is
to
that?
admit. Well, not just because I'm from Chicago.
Could there be a tie in there still?
Yeah, but their first couple albums were
Good
so
stuff.
awesome that they became my favorite band from back in the late 60s.
I will cop to, as a kid, when we're just getting into listening to radio or music on the radio, one of my favorite songs was If You Leave Me Now.
Mm-hmm.
Because they played it, I think it was KXOK. It was like, they played that nonstop, and I was like, I love this song. Oh, welcome back, folks. You're listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show.
There are people listening.
Yeah, they are. And we actually are a talk show, not just a music show, but hey, we like talking about music. So there.
Yep.
It is 8:37. In case you forgot to put your clocks ahead and you're still kind of figuring that out. We are now in daylight saving time. And for this segment of the show, I wanted to talk with you all, or with Gabe particularly, about this weird story, this rabbit hole I went down yesterday afternoon because of the internet.
And you sent me down the rabbit hole, too.
I did. Well, it was like so intrigued by this. I'm like, oh, this is the kind of thing that Gabe will think is really cool.
It is.
So it all goes back to Jane Duker, who I follow on Twitter. She's one of our favorite liberals. I know she's been on the station a few times. And she happened to retweet this, and I follow this account, too. It's an account on Twitter called Fascinating. And they share kind of interesting photos and images, things that kind of mind-blowing sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
And they share this picture. It's an image of a little blonde boy, cute little blonde boy, standing with little binoculars around his neck in New York in front of the Twin Towers as they are billowing smoke, like they've been hit by the planes. And
now it's some distance from,
he's not right in front. He's like 12. I think they said they're like 12 blocks north of there. He's facing the camera and just kind of like not kind of half grimacing, smiling.
Probably squinting in the sun.
Yeah. And there's people behind him,
like
walking, like a big crowd. And they've got like briefcases and stuff with them. But the quote on the picture says, "Young boy gets photo taken moments after the first plane hit the World Trade Center. Notice the people in the background have not yet noticed." That's mind-blowing. It's kind of like the accidental tourist photo, which was the guy on the building that supposedly had the plane in the background.
They captured the plane in the back, moments before,
which was a hoax.
That was absolutely a hoax.
This is the story of the 9/11 hoax that wasn't.
Yeah.
This photo started circulating online several years ago, maybe 10 years ago even. And people started asking questions about it, understandably, because first of all, it really didn't come to light until, 15 years after the incident happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of iconic.
Yeah.
I mean, it really catches your eye. And it's like, where'd this come from? Is this fake?
Yes. And that's kind of the standard reaction now.
Right.
That's what I meant by internet culture.
Absolutely.
It's like when you see a photo that feels unbelievable, your inclination now is, oh, that's fake.
Yeah. Yeah, and people
almost necessarily so.
they had good reason to question it because there is this weird juxtaposition. It seems to be the sun up in the sky and it's in the wrong place from where the shadows are, but we learn later why that is. So the bottom line is this podcast that it's called The Understood.
Mm-hmm.
They did a deep dive into this a couple years ago.
And by deep dive, we mean like...
Deep dive. Like they literally went to the source.
They found people and interviewed people.
They found the little boy in the photo.
Yeah,
so
and his mom.
And his mom, who took the photo. So what happens is he's like 4 in the photo. when this started becoming a thing on Reddit, which
Yeah.
kind of has that sort of internet culture
Yeah.
conspiracy theory kind of rabbit hole stuff to go down.
And also, that is the originator of a lot of fake internet stuff.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
Absolutely.
mhm.
So it starts circulating, and this guy pipes up and says, "Oh, that's me. That's
Yeah.
legit." And he posted a couple pictures of himself, like holding the picture
Mhm.
and like with a note and that sort of thing. But it still wasn't definitive. Like, is this really?
Yeah, they're
this
like,
guy?
oh, he photoshopped the picture
Yeah,
into this picture. Is it, you know?
exactly. I mean,
there
you
goes the
know.
rabbit hole.
So, but these folks did this deep dive, and I can't get into all of it here. But what they found is this is legitimately a photo that was taken the day that this happened. It was not taken moments after the planes hit. It was actually taken about 2 minutes before the first tower collapsed.
Yeah.
Which, and the people that are shown behind him walking away from it that seemingly aren't alarmed, they were kind of in that in-between phase where they knew something had happened, but they didn't know. The towers hadn't collapsed yet.
Yeah.
They just knew that they were being evacuated, and it was kind of a weird day. So, like,
And
they
12 blocks is a distance.
Yeah.
That's a significant distance.
So they didn't yet know the import of what
Yeah.
had happened. They just knew that there'd been an emergency, and they were kind of, like a fire drill, kind
Yeah.
of being moved along.
They
And
figured they were going back, I imagine.
I think a lot of them probably did. Like, eventually this fire's going to be put out, and we're going to be, there's like one guy that's kind of looking back and everything. But the reason they're not panicked is because they don't realize the full import.
Right.
And when you think about it, I think we all had our own reactions to it.
Mhm.
But in that in-between time, between when they were struck and when we started realizing, and then the Pentagon was struck, like those people probably didn't know about the Pentagon.
Oh, they did not.
Right.
Guaranteed.
So the reason was they just didn't understand the full import of it yet.
Mhm.
And the mom says, okay, he's a little kid, he's watching TV. They're in their house in Tribeca, and it gets interrupted, and they're like, he's crying because his show's gone. Dragon Tales.
Yeah.
And
It's been interrupted by the news.
Yeah. And I think she got a call from her husband. So she's figuring out what's going on. And she was supposed to be taking him to preschool, but she thought, this is kind of a big deal. I should go look. So
Mhm.
she takes him out there, it's not far from their house.
Grabs her camera.
And he grabbed his binoculars to look at what happened. And she took this picture. They walked back in the house, and like a minute later, the tower collapses.
Yeah.
So
Then everything changes.
And everything changes.
Yeah. And what's funny is as part of the investigation here, they got the full reel of pictures
Yes.
from that film, because this is back in the day where there was film reels and you had to get them developed and things like that. So they saw the negatives, they saw the little proof sheet with all
Yeah.
the little miniature
That was the thing.
versions of the pictures, and all of them had sticky notes that the woman had put on kind of after the fact, just kind of relating what was going on in the background, the context of each of those pictures. And the investigators, and they remarked, it's like, yeah, the pictures, the commentary, it all gets more and more somber the further you get along that reel. So it's basically a sort of pictographic depiction of her realization of what the day actually meant.
Exactly.
And the fact that it got buried for so long is also a reflection of, it's like, I know this picture could have some import to it, but it feels disrespectful because our expressions are wrong.
Right.
She realizes
says
after
that,
the fact. Yeah, it's like it feels weird. I'm gonna hide this
She says
picture.
that people that there would be exhibits for the important photos from the day, and people would encourage her, knowing of the photograph, hey, you should turn that in.
Yeah.
And she was always reluctant to, because she felt a little voyeuristic.
Yeah.
She felt a little awkward about the photo. And then it was her son who was, as a teenager, posted it kind of,
on Facebook.
Yeah.
I think early days of Instagram.
Right.
I think he said he put it on Instagram.
Just, and then because it's a picture of him and it's kind of iconic. I mean, I don't think he realized it was going to blow up the way it did. And then a classmate finally told him, hey, this is blowing up on Reddit, which is how he got involved.
And he said, what is Reddit?
Yeah, what's Reddit?
This is how far back we're talking
exactly.
about.
So, and then they've got a picture of him. They went back when he was like 14 and took the picture in the same. So it was like the 10-year anniversary.
Yeah.
So they went back and took a picture of him kind of leaning up against the railing in the same place. And you can see the Freedom Tower being constructed in the background.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Twin Towers are gone. And he's now a tall, lanky kid with blonde, curly hair.
Mm-hmm.
And I at this point, I think he's an adult, but a young adult. Well, yeah, because he was 4 in 2021 or 2001. So he'd be 25-ish now.
Yep.
But it's just a fascinating thing. And this is one of those times when I love the internet. It's really cool when you.
Yeah.
And kudos to these people. They had this whole thing where like the one guy went and like threw the picture in front of his family, like in their, I don't know, it was like their family business of a
Oh yeah, the
like a
pinball. Yeah.
alley or something.
Yeah.
And they're all arguing over it. Like his family, he's like, my mom and dad got divorced over it. I mean, he was joking, but like they all got in a big fight about whether or not the image was real.
Yeah. Yeah, they're the ones who identified what appeared to be the sun.
Yes.
And the disconnect between the direction of the shadows.
Yep.
And it turns out, which was one of the questions they asked when they interviewed, it's like, what is this? Well, they took a picture of a picture. And the overhead lamp or something like that was reflecting off of the top corner of the image, the actual physical image of the picture, and was creating this kind of flare effect that looked like the sun, I guess, in the internet image of that picture. So then we see an original picture.
Yeah, we see the original picture, and it doesn't have that glow there.
Yeah.
So it's just a fascinating little.
So
I don't know.
interesting.
And, I mean, like most people who remember that day, I mean, like all of the little snippets that, you just, everything's kind of like little still shots in your own mind of what you saw and what you remember and where you were and that sort of thing. So how fascinating that this family has this story and they were able to track them down and actually find the truth out.
And in a lot of ways, it speaks to the perceptions too that people have of images, right?
That's true.
That if this was the only image we had to go with, the one that's been posted online, and there was no one to corroborate, no one had come forward, people would just think what they think about that image, like it's fake because of the sun.
Right.
It's
and the people aren't reacting.
And the people aren't reacting, so obviously this never happened.
Yeah, exactly. It is kind of,
and you lose the context of the day.
You do. And it's just, I mean, so yeah, I guess I have to note that the Twitter account that shared it has it a little bit wrong. It wasn't just after the plane. And I thought about that because I was like, well, both buildings look to be on fire there, so that wouldn't be after the first plane hit.
Yeah, that'd be about both.
And I was right about that. It was after they'd hit and they were just about to come down. But still fascinating little story. So thanks for joining us on this little detour through like mind-bending internet stuff. We appreciate you doing that. We'll be back right after this here on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show on News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com. Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Report cards are a good way to show how well your kids are doing in class and where they might need improvement. We at the Show Me Institute believe schools should get grades too, so parents can see how their child's school compares to others. That's why we came up with the Missouri School Rankings Project. Click on the website moschoolrankings.org and it's all there. Rankings and letter grades for all the schools in Missouri. The rankings are based on categories such as student performance in English language arts and math, ACT scores, and graduation rates. Then we take the rankings and come up with a grade point average, just like your child has. Each school and district has a grade, and the website is easy to use. And now we've added spending data for every district, so parents, taxpayers, and policymakers can see where the money is going. Don't you want to know how your child's school stacks up? Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss as part of our lineup every week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 3 times every weekend on News Talk STL. And in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
Hey, St. Louis, my name is Rob Carter. If you are sick and tired of the corporate news bubble, if you like unedited information free from corporate money, if you want straight talk with no script, join me weeknights from 8 to 10 p.m. on The Rob Carter Show.
Live and local, weeknights at 8 on News Talk STL.
Staff Sergeant Mark Anthony Madrid.
Staff Sergeant Samantha Cowell.
I'm Staff Sergeant
I'm
Alex
Staff
Stewart.
Sergeant William Lewis, and I am proud to defend my family and our nation.
The Air Force Reserve is part of the story of this great nation.
I'm grateful that I have a chance to wear the uniform of the heroes that went before me.
I'm proud to be part of a team that helps make a difference in the world.
Every day, men and women from communities across this nation serve as reserve citizen airmen. Even as technology evolves and changes, our commitment to defend and protect this nation remains steadfast. We celebrate those who have served and those who are proudly serving. We celebrate our proud history and look towards an exciting and uniting future. Our mission is to fly, fight, and win in air, space, and cyberspace.
And I am proud to be a member.
And I'm proud to serve in the United States.
And I am proud to protect our country.
Proud to serve in the U.S. Air Force Reserve.
Love the music you hear on the morning show? Check out Mike's Morning Music Playlist at newstalkstl.com.
Welcome back, folks. You're listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show. Susie Moore filling in for Mike. Enjoyed the opportunity to do that the past couple days while he's playing old man baseball. And in the last couple minutes that we have here, I wanted to talk about the fact that, speaking of, we were talking about 9/11 in New York and all that stuff. I don't know if you guys saw this story last week. Letitia James, who's the New York AG, she spoke at it was like a New York Fire Department ceremony. It was a promotion ceremony. And she got up to speak, and she started getting booed.
Mm-hmm.
There were people in the crowd that were not too pleased with Tish James and, her prosecution of Donald Trump and her basically, kind of singular focus on taking him down. And, they booed, and she told them to simmer down, and they were chanting. Some of them were chanting Trump, Trump, Trump. So, it was an awkward moment for her. And I also get the fact that it was a ceremony, and I get that there are certain levels of decorum that people are expected to have.
Yeah.
But I also understand why a lot of people in that crowd may not have been too pleased with that. I don't know why they chose to have her as the speaker in that context.
She was available?
Maybe, yeah. It's kind of a strange choice.
Yeah.
But in any event, now there are documents that have been leaked, supposedly. I haven't independently verified this yet, but the fire department in New York is about to basically track down the people that booed or heckled James and basically, punish them. They're asking them to turn themselves in if they were a part of this or risk being, identified and hunted down.
It's wild. And then, of course, re-educated once they find you.
Right, re-educated.
Yeah.
Welcome to 1984.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Where are we right now?
How about this? How about say, hey, folks, we understand that everybody has different viewpoints. People, you're entitled to your own viewpoints. You're entitled to your political stances or whatever. Maybe you like or don't like a speaker. But here's the thing. When someone is speaking to us in a ceremonial setting, you need to behave yourselves.
Yeah.
Exercise decorum.
Yeah.
Express this elsewhere. This is not the time to it. In the future, if this kind of thing happens, there may be retribution. There may be,
a little bit of a scolding, a little warning.
Right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really be able to argue with that.
That would be an appropriate reaction by leadership, in my view.
We're going to hunt you down if you don't turn yourselves in. I'm ready for them all to go full bore. I am Spartacus.
Right, exactly.
I would love to see the entire FDNY just say,
it's like,
I am Spartacus.
It's like all of us did it.
I'm your Huckleberry.
Come at me, bro. Basically. Yeah, I want to see it too.
That would be awesome.
That would be great.
I don't know.
Things are getting wild these days, especially. Why is the leadership of all these various organizations, why are they so fascistic in the way they want to administer their organizations? The impulse seems to be the norm now.
Yeah.
I don't understand where that came from.
I don't know if that's a default setting or what. But yeah, you see it like in law enforcement and the military.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the upper echelons get kind of politicized, and then they're basically going against mission with what they're trying to do with leadership.
Yeah.
And then you see the repercussions. Why is military recruitment down so much?
Police recruitment.
Right.
Same.
Well, who wants to be a part of an organization that's going to basically work against you at every turn?
Yeah. You've told me that you hate me.
Right.
And that you want to change the way I think and behave, and you want to threaten me with my livelihood if I don't conform. So why would I put my livelihood in your hands?
FBI.
Yeah.
Another example, since we talked to Tristan Leavitt earlier about the whistleblowers, those guys, those 3 whistleblowers, I don't know if you saw them testify. Their stories are very compelling. And, you could say, okay, maybe one guy's like, a loose cannon. Like maybe he thought something was wrong and he was wrong and coming forward with it or whatever. But all 3 of these have very similar stories, and they were about different things. They each complained about 3 different things. That blew the whistle on 3 different issues that they saw in the organization. And the way that they were treated was your security clearance is suspended. So you can't work.
You can't work.
But you can't take outside work.
Yeah.
And you can't, they're literally left in limbo and having to navigate this. Thank God there are organizations like Empower that help these individuals navigate this, because, I guess I'm very lucky. I feel very lucky to have worked in 2 different careers, that both of which, afford me the ability to pursue my job without having them work at my leadership or my supervisors work opposite me.
Yeah.
But I just can't imagine that.
Yeah. A lot of professions are suffering. I mean, not just from that, the professional, what do you call it?
Malaise?
Yeah, or something like that. But also, I think a brain drain.
Yeah.
Because places like United Airlines, right? They've got a number of mishaps that they've had recently.
A ton. They were like 5 in 5 days.
Right.
And they're mostly maintenance issues.
Yes.
Like wheels falling off, windows like bad stuff.
Yes. And I think, my personal opinion on the issue is that as the knowledgeable boomers move out of the workforce, and they did so en masse in 2020 because of all the restrictions and stuff, they were like, I'll just take my retirement. I don't have to deal with this. Now you've got a big brain drain in a lot of really, really important professions, and we're kind of SOL at this point.
Yeah, there's some repercussions for you. Well, stick around, folks. After this, you're going to be listening to Vic Porcelli, The Vic Porcelli Show. We appreciate you joining us here on News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
Atheist. I really am a liberal, but I'm also a conservative.
No matter your side.
I'm a Democrat. I'm just a bit angry, frustrated conservative.
No matter your inclination.
I'm probably a liberal, maybe more in the middle.
We are here for your place to talk about it.
I'm the progressive liberal Democrat that you said is afraid to call you.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
I'm sure we'll have a robot.